we'll post the patch notes. With release at the end of next week, our community team will be posting crucial information you'll need for the release. Keep an eye on the news. Thanks for joining us today and checking out our latest developments. We're looking forward to playing alongside our fellow shapeshifting exiles, all while uncovering lost Vaal secrets by doing some dungeon crafting. We'll begin the Q&A shortly, so please get your questions ready.
Respect, man. I honestly, improving the game performance was the #1 problem in my opinion, and that they at least they talked about it and they're doing something about it now, so I have a lot more faith in what's going on here. Also, the
welcome back, Exiles, to the Q&A portion. I am your host, Ziggy D, and today we're going to
the
be
Vaal
touching
is
on the
looking
design
sick,
of the
man.
Druid and the fate of the Vaal League while we gather some community.
That is looking insane.
We'll dive into end game balance and other game.
That was a hell of a
topics.
reveal. I
Of course,
agree,
joined
Knight.
by
That was
game directors
insanity.
Jonathan Rogers and Mark Roberts.
That
How you
was
guys going?
cracked.
Very good. I mean, you know, it's been a great one to work on this one. Like, I've really enjoyed it. So yeah, it's definitely great to see you again. And it feels like it's only been like no time at all since the last time you were here with the PoE1 release.
It feels like only several weeks, and that's pretty accurate.
That was
You
fucking
get to see you
cracked.
twice as often now, so that's fun.
Yeah, I'm around every 2 months or so now, roughly. It's great. I love it. Let's keep going. So I do have to open with this though. Is like Druid looked a little bit weak, I think, in the demonstration video today.
Yeah, I think one of the issues that we have is like we're so concentrating on like
It was a bit
just
smaller in
demonstrating
scope
how
than I
the mechanics
hoped.
work, we sort of forget to be like, okay, let's actually make sure the damage
Hope
numbers
for,
that we're doing
but
on this like
the
test character we're
things
filming
they
here are actually
are
like, in
adding
line
are
with what
really
people
good.
actually
I agree,
would
man.
expect. So,
It's
yeah, there's
it's not
definitely things that
a
we
super
probably should've,
massive
should've
thing,
caught and,
but
made a
it
little
brings
stronger
out
there,
a
but, yeah, when
ton
you
of
actually play
things
it,
that was
certainly from the
needed
alpha feedback,
and
incredibly
a ton
powerful, like,
of new
you know,
possibilities,
the,
plus
like, we were saying to
250
people saying, oh, you know,
new
the wolf looks
passive
weak or whatever. Well, I
points
can assure you that
is
on alpha, there's a bunch of
insane.
people saying the wolf is super OP, so you know it just comes down to the things you go through in order to do
I hope
the
that temple building will be rewarding enough. I hope so too.
Make some videos showing
Because that was the #1 problem
side and get
with
them
the
posted and stuff this week. 'Cause honestly,
Calendar
you
League
can just play it
mechanic.
literally
Yeah,
whenever.
I agree, man. But
Yeah,
I like the
playing and
idea.
recording a bit myself because I was like,
It all
when I
comes
first
down
watched it
to
as well, like,
execution
draft, I was
at this
thinking,
point.
it's like,
The
I don't really
ideas
get
are
the feel for what it feels like to actually
brilliant.
play it. Like, there's good demonstration here of the mechanics, but yeah, I can understand how from your perspective it'd be pretty easy.
The
to be
idea is
like,
cool
I'm
as
not
fuck.
familiar
Yeah, I
with
agree,
this
man.
thing,
The
what's
fucking
going on?
There's a fine
dragon
line there
form
for
was
sure.
insane.
Where if you get
Double
too hectic,
corruption,
people
love
don't
it.
even know what's going
I
on. It just
called it
doesn't
on
slow
the
it
on the
down,
temple
right?
though. I fucking literally called that
In
one.
this case, let's say we win on the
Insane. And buffs all around to all the pre-existing classes. Love that. Really love that.
Gameplay out to people to understand.
There was a lot of good things in this one.
Shapeshifting stuff. It's so hard for us
That
to-
wasn't
we can
necessarily
look at something like, oh, that's just a
game-specific
demonstration.
mechanics, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like a new mechanics we haven't seen before, but it's like
so unusual. It's so different that it's actually hard to judge.
making the game better is what I'm all about. I would play Abyss all over again if it meant the game ran perfect, all the classes was good, like, you know what I mean?
The movement of, especially because like in your demonstrations you're not really using.
So the fact they're adding stuff on top of all that, I'm just
I suppose one of the things we didn't
I'm
really
happy.
roll on in the video as well
I
is that we do
expected to be
actually have
disappointed,
they're not actually rolls,
and I'm happy.
but yeah, all the animals are
So
kind of like
that's why I
around
expected to
and
be
that-
disappointed.
that was
I
honestly one of
expected
those
them to
things
do
that was
some
like,
bullshit, and then
funny 'cause
now
initially
I'm like
we
really,
actually
really
had to win,
satisfied.
Dodge
That's a
on
good way to
transfer
go into
effect,
this
you
shit.
know, and
Just
the thing
expect
is
shit,
it's really
and
hard
then
to
you get
make
happily
animations
surprised.
for animals that like actually work correctly. Like we actually thought it was impossible, but then when we actually put it on alpha, there was the kind of visceral reaction of I want to still be a bear, like, you know, while I'm hopping around. So
I will say one
like,
thing though
okay,
about the
how
druid.
can we
It
make
does
it
look
possible?
slow
How can we
in
make it
some
so we
ways,
can actually,
unless you
do
can
the
figure out a
job
way
of
to
an animal. And that sort of ended up,
consistently do the running part. Then
And this was like clearly the
it
class
does look a
like,
little
the
bit
hardest
slow.
class to design so far, and it took a bit longer. Like, I
Yeah,
think
they're
we
trying their
were
best
originally
to
hoping bring
improve
it out in
and
previous
then
expansions.
quite a while
fuck it
ago,
up
but
along the
thing
way.
is, well,
It
that's
got
kind of like
fixed
the same for
90%
us
of it
as
in the
well.
first
Because
week, and
not
it's all
only
good.
do you,
Yeah, I agree, man.
obviously we want to have switch
Agreed.
between skills and stuff like that,
100%.
and we can like look at that in a normal class and work out what those might be. But with this class, people want to be able to play.
There's gonna be some mad broken combos now
as
because
well
I can
as
already
people
tell
like play, like,
with the
dual
lightning
different animals, or people just want to be able to
lightning
add
arrow,
all the different
not lightning
combinations.
arrow,
So we had to kind of come up with a
lightning
way,
spear
like, each line
and stuff
needs
like
to be
that. There's gonna be some
self-sufficient,
mad broken
so
combos for sure,
at the same
100%.
time, you have to not have it so it feels like there's just duplication between them. We're like, oh, like this is.
I
Just
really
the same
like
thing as what
the
it has, but, you know, you are
the
also set. So you
plant
have to, like, it's like you
growing
need all the
with the
tools that you
range
also
stuff,
need to
that
have
shit
something
was
different.
sick,
And that
man.
just made it really,
And
really
the
tricky to
dragon, I
get
can't
things
get past the
with it.
dragon. That shit was
And then
insane.
it didn't also
I was
help
expecting
that,
a
since the last
gorilla,
time we were working on the Druid,
and that just blew it out the water for me. But I didn't think they would go that far. You know what I mean?
WSD, and that is a whole other complication because like how can we make that work with the animal form?
The plants looked really interesting.
Like I'll tell you the wyvern, for
Wyram,
example.
the thing
Like, we had a hell of a time
was
getting
surprising
some
as well.
good
Yeah, I
range,
agree,
because you need to
man.
be able to walk
That
while you're doing it. The
Yeah.
wyvern
A lot of
sitting with its
surprises
arms, like,
here,
planted on the
honestly.
ground, like being able to walk while also spitting it. Yeah, it's like we went through so many iterations of that. So yeah, it was just a very tricky class overall, like just crazy.
I remember seeing some very goofy looking like wyvern.
I don't know if you saw the
monster
video I
monster.
made with the
Like,
10
sure,
things that I
this
really
is
want
not
to see
working.
changed.
Right,
I
right.
feel like they
For,
nailed a lot
for
of
a long
those,
time,
man.
The wolf was just like a dancing dog. It was just like it
I'll be
looked
starting
so
Druid
real,
as
really
per
silly.
usual.
Like, man,
I
the
think
wolf
I'll
as
be
well,
starting
was really
something
hard to
else,
get right.
and then I'll build a
There's one of
Druid
the things we really
afterwards.
wanted
I
to
think I'm
avoid
gonna
was,
go through the
I didn't want
game
that too much of that
on
whole,
something
man and
different
wolf suit
to start with.
vibe. Like I wanted to actually get the feeling of like this is
I want to
actually
see
a
the patch
different
notes,
animal, which I
and
think
then
with the
I'll
bear
make
and
like a
wyvern's way
complete
easier.
decision
With
on
the
it.
wolf, it's
But I'm
like, it's
thinking
really
I'm gonna
hard not
go
to
through the
just go
game
back on that.
on
So
either
we had a
Mer
lot of
with
questions about, like,
crossbow
what even the locomotion was. How does it walk? Are we gonna
or
walk on turn eight,
Ranger
so we
or
can
Amazon
walk
or
forward?
like
Splitting the difference, you can do
Ranger
both,
or
right? You
Amazon
can
or
have,
something like
when you're
that,
attacking and you're can be upright on two
or
legs.
maybe
When
Blood
you're,
Mage
walking,
or like
you run on
Witch.
four,
I
you're
might
actually
start
doing
a
speed
Witch
boost
because
while you're
it's
on
just
four legs, like, as a wolf just,
I don't know
so
if I
after
feel like
1 second of
I
walking,
do feel
you know,
like
on four legs,
Witch
you
is the
start moving
strongest.
faster. So yeah,
It's the
for sure.
strongest class right now because all three Ascends has extreme power and all three of them are different. So you can pull from different types of powers, right? Like you have elemental powers and stuff like that, and bleed with the Blood Mage. You have minions with the Infernalist, and you have like chaos and stuff with the Lich. So I feel like there's so much potential here, like all around.
Just like honestly, unless you actually click the bear keyword, is like undescribed everywhere.
But it was even more than that.
Wait, let me pull my notes real quick. I want to like quickly look at my notes
So,
here.
from rage expenditure, it does.
I was like, that's so cool.
Yeah. So,
Fixing stability,
We really wanted
they
to make
said
sure
that.
that each of the different
Making
forms had
more
things
classes
that,
meta besides
can benefit
lightning.
the
They
other
said they
forms.
were going to do
So, like,
that.
it was really tricky to think, like,
Adding
what are
flavor
resources
to
that a bear
the
can
to
generate?
the
What are the
essence that was
resources that can generate?
lacking.
What are the ones that wyvern can generate that the other ones can then use in
They
order
said they
to
were
kind of
going to
get
do
that
that.
synergy. So,
Giving us a way to
one
disable
of the reasons why we had to kind of
delirium
come up with
or
something.
changing the
How to
color
trigger.
And
scheme.
that caught me
They are
by
doing
surprise
that.
as well, because like technically it's
Um,
mentioned, but I never really.
They didn't talk
fully
about
understood
revoking the
idea
banner
that
situation,
you can
but
swap between the forms.
we'll
Like,
have to wait and
even
see.
to
Buffing
back,
warriors,
I figured
well, they're
that's
doing
what's
that.
going on here, but
So,
you can, like,
The
leap in
skills,
and then
not
immediately
necessarily the
transform to
warrior
it and then
sense, but
slam
the
it.
You
skills,
absolutely can.
and they
So
were doing the
the thing with
sense
this
too.
is
So
that, you want to present
the ninja
fantasy to
support
someone
gems
as far as,
being
like, what the UI is
hyper-specific to
pushing
one
you
and
towards,
the
almost.
yeah,
Like,
that
there are
one
gonna be a
is
lot of people that are
still
like,
up
I
in
wanna
the
be a bear,
air.
and they just pick bear stuff and they go
Fixing
with
the
bear, right?
atlas tree
But
so
at
it
the
feels
same
more
time,
rewarding for
constrained in the sense
certain.
that you can
They are doing that.
pick all the other stuff. You can use it at the same time.
Tablet
So one talisman, like, effectively
tab.
you pick on a
I don't know
talisman
if they're putting
from, like,
that.
wolf, bear, or wyvern. What that's giving you is the default attack, right? That's
Yeah,
what you're
just
actually
that.
picking. And that's
And
all
flash
it is,
reroll
right?
currency.
And
That
often
was
will
like
guide you,
my
what
top
skills you're
10
picking and so on,
things
but
that
you
was
can
like
just use with that same talisman as many different
really
healing
needed
skills
in
as
my
you would
opinion.
like.
Which is my
And,
go-to
that,
class
just
when
means
I
that you've
want
got that sort
to
of free
go
flow, like,
cozy.
try
Yeah,
to
that's what I'm
stuff,
thinking too.
sort
If
of
I just
combo
want to
gameplay.
chill through the game and be
So
sure that I
like
can
trying
do
to-
everything with like
obviously
no
there will
real
just be a lot of people who just
massive
pick one thing, right?
issues and stuff like
Absolutely
that.
expect but,
I feel
yeah,
like
there's a lot
Witch
of
is just such a
experimentation to do that if you wanna
strong
do it.
choice.
Yeah, so you're
There's
trying to
other
get,
good
like,
choices too. That's
making it so like people who just want like a simple, straightforward, like I just want to run out as bear and slam the ground, like that's certainly
Yeah.
very possible there. But also, you with this whole class, you had the problem of how do we make like a.
I do like that
spellcaster
there's
and
two
a
different
melee
ascents
attacker
for
to
the
switch
druid.
as well.
Super nice.
I mean, this class has got a bit of everything.
For sure.
How did you make all that kind of like work together and solve that build problem of like how do you actually scale these things together in a way that
The last
this one thing
laminate
isn't way better than everything else?
Lich
Right. Well, I mean, it's
went
always
super
tricky,
hard
and
in
I'm sort of the
03.
one who handles a lot
I
of
love it
balance
very
stuff,
much.
but
I
can see
agree,
the
man.
initial
That I
design
made it
is
as
pretty
well.
cool.
That thing is
So I just
banger.
go over the fence all my horrible
Absolute
stuff,
banger.
and then you're like, how the hell am I going to balance this?
Mark.
Yeah. But,
Crossbows
I think,
ran
like,
really
even
hard
with
last
the
week.
spellcaster
Crossbows,
side, so one of the things we
bows,
initially wanted with spellcasting is a lot of it's like over
there was some
time type effects
spellcaster stuff that would
you know,
that
so for
went
example,
quite
the,
hard as well.
Volcano being the really obvious one, right? Like you
But there
create
was
this
like
thing,
kind of
and then you
limited
can turn into an animal and
in
draw
terms
stuff
of
at
the
same time.
different
So
skill
when you do it
uses.
on
You
the
know what I
human side, a
mean?
lot of things
It was
last for a
like
long time.
there was the
But the problem you then
fire
run into when you actually go to battle.
that Lance
something, it's
made,
like,
and then there was like
if you've just got like 5 damage over time style spells,
Spark
why
again,
not just
of
cast all
course,
them, you don't have to
and then
ever
there
do
was
anything
one
else, right?
more.
Like, so it's
I
like that
forget
kind
what
of
it
stuff makes
was.
hard. So then you have to start
But we
thinking,
have it.
okay, we want to make it so that
You remember back when they
cast a
came out,
long-term
the
thing as a
cold
human, but then
cast and
being an animal is
freeze
going to augment.
That shit was
that. So
insanely cool to
so,
play,
for
but
example,
they
with,
kind of nerfed
Tornado,
it so hard that it
it's
hasn't
got,
really
a
been
similar
like a
mechanic
really
to the
good
little twisters that
ice
the hunters
type
have, where ground effects
caster.
can
I feel
power
like it's coming back slowly.
with extra elemental stuff. And so then we're like, okay, well, if the animal forms are the ones that can create the ground effects, then that means that you're kind of like, you're going to want to do, you know, like, to mix that with the tornado, you now have to have both the animal forms and the spellcaster stuff if you want to get all of that together. So it's just a lot of that thinking about how can an animal form aid a spell, how can a spell aid an animal
Yeah,
form.
hopefully
all the way
the
through.
other elements
And,
make
then, yeah, as I said,
make a
we've got
comeback this
defense
week.
and then
I really
markers to
do
work out
think
what kind of
with
numbers
the
that should be.
spellcasting totems, with the replacing your parts so you can bounce off of the Vaal mechanic thing with your spells and stuff. I think there's a lot of potential with that.
It's becoming growingly more complicated,
Yeah.
but that's also what's fun about the game and what all the things you can unlock and the crazy builds you can do. But yeah, I mean, like, this week's focus has been like, okay, we had all the, like, during our alpha testing and internal testing, we had, like, you know, there was the I want to be all forms going between, there was the I just want to be wolf, I just want to be bear, I just want to be a dragon, and now we're getting a lot more of I just want to cast nature plant skills and do plant stuff.
Yeah,
So it's like,
that's
okay,
sick.
well, how do we make that work?
I
because they've
wonder
got
whether they'll
duration, so
do
we're having bunch of
a
complexity with that as well, and
walk
it
back
honestly
on
just,
lose your
it does
limbs
just
on
spiral
death.
into like, oh my god, there's 20 million variables here.
Depending
fun.
on how hard it is to
And at the end
get
of the
it in
day,
the
as long as
first
it is
place,
honestly fun
I'm
to
not
play,
sure.
Then honestly we're golden. So,
If it's as
know,
easy as it is to get a
I'd
grasp
say
in
we're
PoE
pretty
1,
much there on almost everything with this class. I'd actually say
I
we're
could
a
see
little
them
bit
not doing
prepared
that.
than normal.
But
We've had a
if
lot
it's
of
like,
testing, despite
if there's too much
partly because it's been
micromanaging
in
and
the
it
works
takes
for
too long,
so long.
like too much time, I could see
but
them
yeah,
go
it's-
back on that.
I don't know, like ultimately pretty fun. I'd say there's still something, obviously there's still more to do. There's obviously always more to do. But yeah, there's a lot going on, a lot of enjoyment. I saw yesterday, I was just like walking past someone's computer and, you know, someone was mentioning like, yeah, it's just fun placing 6 volcanoes and then just slamming on them. I was like, all right, sweet, you do you. Like, that's fine.
I was definitely enjoying obliterating bosses in bear form, like with dropping tornadoes, and there's the totem which you can summon in animal form, and then you're.
I
putting
think
fishes
there's
down
so
and
much
they're
potential with
exploding
this league
before you
actually.
put things on the
In
ground,
terms
they're
of
exploding.
builds,
There's
I
definitely
feel
some,
like they're bringing back like
observations going
a
on.
lot more
Just
variety,
walking
so it's not
past
like
just
a lot of the
7
same
million
builds you're seeing
tangles
over and
going
over.
out, and then there's that plant support general. Like, all right, it's putting the new.
I see chat being like, no, Zig, you don't get it nerfed. I do have to admit that I did already get one thing, let's say fixed.
Okay.
There was a thing that was like double generating rage, so I'm like, I don't know if this was intended.
Right,
And
right.
like, no, the designer said that's probably not intended. Thanks, Ziggy. I'm like,
I don't know.
Sorry,
we'll see
guys,
where
not
that
again.
goes, because I was like, no, that's
We'll
fine.
see how things
This is a fish.
works
Shade it to
out.
me.
Yeah, it's a fish thing.
I'm fine
I'm
with
expecting
yeah,
to getting
'cause it
one
generates rage when you
to
first
be
slam,
on
so
the
it's just every
difficult
time they
as
pulse, it generates
building
rage.
1
I'm
and
like,
4
really? Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't even know
of
Because
the
like
trail
totem's
run.
making
Yeah.
a pulse, and that's generating rage.
I could see that.
Right.
I'm like, that
Okay,
doesn't
that's interesting.
seem
That's very
intentional.
It's
interesting.
fine.
Yeah.
I could see that.
I love that because that's like
Okay.
ridiculously powerful. That
Yeah, yeah.
feels like way permissive. I was
Right.
like, this feels illegal, but that's like, you gotta let a few things in there
Nah,
that
it's
feel
fine.
illegal.
It's doing what the skill says.
I may not have, maybe I didn't get enough. Okay, cool.
I don't know. They might have changed it. I'll find out afterwards. I just throw my opinion in there. I don't want to necessarily be like. I try and make sure with a lot of these balanced discussions, it's not like, you know, I'm just an authority on the matter. I want to actually discuss these things through, because maybe it isn't actually
Man.
fine, but you know, my first instinct is like, yeah, like let it run wild. Like, what's the problem? You know, so
Yeah, you gotta.
we'll see what happens. But whatever. They don't know
I
what the problem is, so don't
I
worry
I have a
about it now.
feeling
Thanks, you've ruined it. Now
that
people
there's
will
gonna
know
be
the
some broken
change,
stuff
now
this
they-
time because there's so many
I'll see the
changes
thing not
and there's so many
generating
added
rage.
new
Let's see that line
points
of
to the
text, that's
tree
the Ziggy line of
that
text.
I could really see there
Developing
being some
reputation
absolute
now.
broken
Just
shit
opening bugs.
that's gonna get absolutely destroyed.
So,
Really, like they're gonna
like,
go in and
restricting
fix
stuff
it because it's just
comes
too
from
broken.
This trinket, the talisman.
Yeah, the animal talons.
One thing I'm
And
concerned about,
there's-
they didn't
is there any
mention
limitation just kinda like putting that on another
that they didn't
class
mention is
and
the
just
third
say, like,
ascendancy
I am
option.
playing my
we
mace
have in
order or
Act
my
4.
order
Yeah, I
staff
agree.
monk and I want to do a
That
leaf
is
and
one thing I
master
also
You
is a,
can do it.
like
In fact, it was one of
is
the
a
things
little bit
initially
concerning
that,
to me.
You know, it's funny with the audio team because initially like, oh, we want to record like bear lines for
Yes.
the for the druid the whole time, and I'm like, hey guys, remember, anyone can turn into this animal. Are you actually going to commit to every single class is going to have like three different extra versions of every single line the character can deliver?
Maximum effort.
It's like, yeah, that's a bit tricky. So we ended up.
I don't know,
doing
man. I hope that's something they're gonna talk about here, and they just left it out of the video. But I don't think it will be.
They're thinking it or something like that. I don't know.
But yeah, it would have been completely impossible to record every single line an additional 3 times for every character class.
Voice actors, everybody come back and we need to roar like a bear.
Exactly. But yeah, effectively, every class can be an animal. It's exactly the same.
There's another thing that's a little bit concerning to me. It's the flask rerolling currency that we don't have that, so we still have to pick up 150, 200 flasks to get one we want. That seems like a bit of a problem too.
No. What I meant was is that it's the same. I mean,
no expedition logger is kind of an issue as well.
Yeah.
Damn it, now we have to make that possible.
Well, I mean, you can turn into Calm as a bear.
That's unique item territory for the future.
It often gets talked about like the idea of like, why are things like so weapon locked? And I've always maintained the position that you guys want to kind of do that as much as possible initially, and then in the future
you can send a question by mentioning
Welch
in the chat, and they might bring it up.
Weapon type really comes a lot from what it can do, and so that's the main reason why we do it that way. But but the thing is as well, the weapon swapping, you can still use skills from different elements. Different weapons and things like that.
The thing is, like, it's funny that you mentioned that with the bear, because, like, definitely some of the bears, I noticed parallels between some of its skills and some of the mace stuff, and I could see absolutely combining, like, this bear skill that places fishes with the other stuff on the mace that triggers the fishes. Like, there's, like, very obvious...
Fast reroll.
They're adjacent classes, right? I mean, you've got, like, strength versus strength int. Like, we want to be able to make sure that some of those key elements do, like, cross over just so that to open up the way to have synergy between the different classes more easily.
As you get more classes and more skills, you obviously get an overlap of the kind of mechanics and keywords and stuff, iterating, and thus they will always cross-synergize. And where there still will be new things a class offers, yes, there's always going to be a bunch of stuff that they use that will then interact with all the other skills. So.
Yeah, and now you added plants and plants that grow from rain, and there's a plant keyword that has overgrown as a keyword.
Like, it's interesting actually, those ones, because they're on completely opposite sides of the tree. You've got dex versus strength int, and that's been a little bit hard to kind of like get the where the mechanic should go on one side versus the other. So where we ended up going is that the nature side of things.
The point of this Q&A bit is besides having a live conversation going on, is that they address questions from the community as well. Yeah, I hope they address that.
But that's been fun though, because now it's actually been really fun designing the supports, because the more classes we have, the more we can start to think, okay, like here's a support that's for something obscure. How can we make it so this can apply to some other kind of thing on the opposite side of the tree, where like now you've got some interesting interaction.
Good shout out, man. That's a fucking good shout out, though.
Thing where growing plants as a ranger could be sort of something. I mean, like I can't say I've tested the potential there myself, but like we made all of that work. All the plants can, like plant stuff all has mechanics around like watering the rangers' plants is like a thing. They all have ways that works.
I mean, that definitely opens up interesting party options in the future as well. Like, I do like the idea of being like a druid watering.
It's a thing. It's easily a thing. It's not even hard to do as well.
Right.
It's kind of just like, thanks, druid, you buffed poison rangers.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of just what happened.
Yeah.
Alright, good. Yes, and the rain buffing lightning skills as well, like increasing shock chance. It's pretty wild how much stuff you've just jammed into one class here. How did you like kind of settle on a identity for the wyvern in particular? I feel like people know what a bear is, people know what the wolf is, and even a lot of the like druid stuff is pre-established as like, you've got plants and you got like nature and you got like lifting up the earth, that sort of stuff.
Well, we really wanted to have a third form that was a little bit out there in terms of different from what you'd seen in another game.
Yes.
I mean, obviously, like every game that's got transformations has the bear and the wolf, right? That's just like the staple. But and actually, funnily enough, for that reason, we couldn't not do it. There was actually a period there where we weren't going to have a wolf because we were a little bit unhappy. Yeah, with us, and it's just like, well, exactly, right? That was the reaction. That was the reaction of like all the furries come out of the woodwork and like, you gotta have a wolf.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you?
Speaking of interviews and questions, the Diablo 4 devs came out out of the cave and had a chat with Rax on stream. It really showed the disconnect between players and devs and their active refusal to answer a lot of questions. Agreed, man. And I literally just uploaded a video where I reacted to this guy on YouTube who's like not a big creator or anything, but he pointed out an incredible amount of problems with Diablo 4, and I pointed out a bunch of like problems as well, and then that really shows how far off of how far between the devs and it's not really the devs, because the devs just do the animations, the designs and stuff like that. It's the people in control of the narrative and the direction of the game. Those are the people that need to go, man. They need to get fired. And then they need to bring in
it's kind of a Spellblade
people that are in tune with the game and that's actually played the originals.
Yeah, I mean, as it should be for Strength Int.
Yeah,
oh, right. Okay, sorry. But yeah, it's really the hunger, the greed for money. The leadership is completely disconnected from the player base, and then they are affecting the developers in a way that makes terrible content, basically.
I kind of feel like they
it's
shouldn't.
sad.
I didn't want them to be offensive
because we're all screaming what we want and they're not listening. They're just doing whatever the fuck they want.
Whereas like if they're utility or defensive, that way they will work across all board. That's
what I love about GGG, man. They truly do listen to the community in a massive way too. Like they understand, even though they might not say it straight out and okay, we're gonna change this stuff or do this stuff. Give it time, and enough people say something, they're changing it. They're just going like, yo, okay, people don't like it, so what the fuck are we doing this shit for? Let's get that shit out and get some new in.
You know, something defensive for block or something.
I love that. That's what every company should do. And there's like tons of them, right? Ubisoft with Assassin's Creed, Call of Duty, Dying Light, fucking, it's just tons of them are doing that shit. They have a creative vision. Sometimes it clashes with the community, but find a way to make it work. Yeah, that's how you do it, man. That's the best choice and solution.
Mandatory dragon gold find build. I know it's kind of funny though. It's distinctly PoE.
Just shitting on the community and not doing it is the wrong way to go.
Strength int class, and with the Templar, we had the idea more of like you've got that armor energy shield stuff. But that's still the case here, as that's the strength int base. But I feel like the energy shield stuff is not as iconic to Druid. How have you incorporated that and made it feel like something that makes sense, or like in what ways have you incorporated that to the Druid? I feel like it's not obvious.
Yeah, look, it's a little bit off in terms of the feel there, but at the end of the day, we kind of don't really have many options as far as what we can do. I mean, like that, it is important for it to be that it has that, you know, like armor and energy shield approach. There's a few sort of interesting, what do you call them, spirit reservation gems. I don't know what I can never remember what the official name of that is. That sort of interact with that stuff in a dual way. So there's like that bark skinned thing that effectively allows you to take advantage of energy shield to generate armor. Like, so when you lose energy shield, you get armor instead, and like it creates little bits of bark on your skin. As you there's like things like that we've added. But yeah, it's a little bit of a thematically weird thing. I think probably the weirdest part about that is like, yeah, you're gonna have.
There's nothing wrong with being creative and doing new stuff and trying things that are like out there. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? You just have to roll back on it.
Sure, you can get full armor if you want, but yeah.
I feel like because there's like such a range of identities within that one class as well, that you've got the bear maybe that doesn't really align as much with that. There's definitely more armor stuff.
Yeah,
going
so
on
you could build more strength when you depending on what animal form you're playing, of course.
Yeah, whereas like the wyvern potentially has more of that kind of magical aspect to it, where it's like that's
I mean, and that's why the wyvern itself does get the benefits to energy shield, and the bear does get the benefits to armor in order to kind of make it so you are like, depending on what animal form you're going, there's a bit of alignment in the defenses there.
I mean, really, it's the tree that inspires and motivates this, right? Like, a sorceress could be on the bottom side of the tree and still have the same skill set, and you know, obviously the damage nodes are a bit weird, but it could work. There's nothing saying. I mean, that's part of the beauty of the game as well.
Yeah, I mean, I had that experience where I was like, because it wasn't as clear, I was almost inventing my own lore there a little bit, where I was specking the regen from the druid, and then the zealot's oath right there. I'm like, oh, this actually, like, you're converting your natural kind of like life regen into energy shield. Like, oh, this is kind of the druid's thing. Like,
Yeah, I mean, that is a way for sure. Like, keystones certainly are pretty powerful. We have a
Overall,
bunch of,
in overall in height
There's a
for
new one.
this
There's one that
league,
says do not
bit
translate on it, so
disappointed
it's
that
unfortunately
it wasn't the large
but yeah,
in
we were playing around
scope
with
as
some
I
trying
had
to have some
hoped.
armor, energy shield, more hybrid stuff.
As I had
going on
hoped
with
for,
keystones there.
if they nailed
It was
every
based
element
on, what's it called?
they mentioned here,
Is it Divine
it will
Shield?
be
Is that the
huge.
name of the keystone?
I
can't
agree.
remember. Too many names.
The problem
but, it's
becomes
based on
if
that,
they
but not
have,
exactly the same, like a derivative
if
of
like
that we're trying to
the
get going.
temple is fucked up
yeah,
and
it's
it
just 'cause I
feels
was like, we
super
need more
mandatory, but it
keystones that
feels super dragged
feel more
out and
druidy,
annoying to
I
do,
know
or
there's
like,
a rage one there
you know what I mean?
that is,
But that can
embracing
get
the animal
adjusted.
ferocity
So
where, like,
as long as the
what
core
does it do? It's like
mechanic feels
doubles your maximum rage, but
right,
it makes you don't get inherent bonuses
if
for
it's
rage.
not
So it's
necessarily
like, if you really want to
in the
do
right
skills that are rage
tune,
consumers, like rampage,
I
and
can
you
live
just
with
wanna
that.
rampage for
It's
as
just
much
it
time as
needs to
possible,
feel
you have to go
right,
for that keystone.
like when you
lose
do
the
it.
benefits of rage, but you get
Kind of like Abyss,
to
right,
rampage
with the
around
whole crafting
twice
maps
as
and
long.
shit. That felt
You know, so
terrible.
a few things like that we're trying
Absolutely
to add to the thematic
horrendous.
as well, and I think that's another one of the really cool parts about adding a class is 1/6 of our tree was just filled with just placeholder garbage. Like, actually, like, there's a giant link thing there. There's no links in the game, really. You know, it's like, what are we doing with that? You know, it's like, and so I was like, well, that looked like a vine. Just make that a plant thing. And, so now it's a plant thing that talks about overgrown plants. And but we filled in that whole bit of the tree, and guess what? Now witches and sorceresses have more.
You know what?
Energy shield stuff on that kind of direction.
They don't actually
around
have to
towards the
nail it
druid,
100%.
and warrior
As
has
long as
more,
they
and,
keep
you know, I
updating
don't
and
just
they
mean
keep
energy, I
fixing
mean
the things
everything,
along the
mechanics,
league,
right?
I'm
All the
happy.
into
Really,
mechanics are kind
because
of there,
everything
strength
looks
mechanics,
really
everything,
good
so
and it
It is
gives
nice
mo-
we
like
finally
a lot
have,
of it makes a lot of
class in every
sense.
different part of the tree.
So
Like,
as
we
long
don't
as
have
they
these, like,
keep
weird
adjusting,
open stuff in
if stuff
Yeah,
is
that
fucked
extra-
up
that
or
area
if
of
it's
the tree
like
was a little
completely
strange.
overtuned
I
or
mean,
like,
it's
you know what I
such
mean?
a massive tree
I'm
already,
happy,
and you're
man.
adding more to it, and then like I have to wonder, like you added this oracle class. Like, I saw the shaman one, I was like, yes, this is exactly what I expected. But then I saw the oracle, and you guys had like 100. What is it? 130 extra
So far.
passives. So far. Like, why do you do this to yourself? Like, that seems ridiculous.
It's fun.
because it's cool.
Okay.
Because it's cool. There
That's
really
the
is
best
no other
reason you could ask for, right?
Yeah.
I was like,
What more could you
I really went through. I mean, I know we showed 2 examples, but I was like, really want to make sure there's like cool off-spec stuff here. I want to make sure that if you want to be able to get more of a certain thing, this is a way to do it. I mean, at the end of the day, it still costs passive points to allocate, right? So it's more about, you know, maybe you want some stuff that normally you'd have to go to the deck section for and get, you know, maybe some projectile related stuff, and now you can get it up there because it allows for some kind of weird off class, and it was all themed around, you know, if you got to live your life again, what would you change? Like, what different paths would you
Whoa.
take? And so it's this
Whoa,
interesting,
whoa.
like,
It's an
I don't know.
existential crisis as a
but
node.
That fits period. Right?
initially I always do write my little blurbs about them to you know, get them in the live stream, and I was like, it's got all the passives not yet added to the game. I thought it was an interesting way of looking at it. Not that that's actually how it is, but I thought it was like a kind of, it's a
that sounded insane. The whole
I thought it was just a cool
being
thematic
able
thing
to
that adds to the
like
class, and it's
path
easy,
to
by
certain
the way,
passive that you
to-
can only
as
see with the
designers
druid,
to see that kind
and
of thing and
also
go, we have a
the
million
whole
things to do.
being able
Like,
to see
is
the
that
boss
really- like, that's-
or like
that's
see
too much
yourself
time, too
do
much
an
work,
attack
right?
and then
And
you
I'm
do
just
the
like,
attack and it
If we
creates
If we
more,
say that about
it gives you
everything,
more
you get
damage.
nothing cool.
Those things
And
seemed
so
a little
it's that,
out
and I
there
mean, even the shamans, like,
and very
runes revealing
different
hidden
to me.
towers,
Like that is.
we're setting ourselves up for.
I'm trying to think of
a
something.
large amount
I
of
can't.
cumulative time over a while, right? Any rune we add, anything.
I can't really
we
think
have
of a
to add and
game
just
that has
consider the
ever
shaman's
done that.
stats, and that's
Not
another
even
whole
thinking
axis
of just
things we have to meta
ARPGs,
balance
but
every
I-
league, and same with the oracle passives, and every time we change the tree, and like when we eventually.
Yeah, I
add the
don't think I've
Templar,
ever seen
we're
that
gonna
in a
have to
game before.
relocate all those nodes.
I like the
and trees and
idea.
get
It's
a
just the
giant-
execution,
now we've got
or
three,
not
two
the
and a half
execution
classes in
because it
one
looked cool,
section.
but if it works
It's worth
proper.
it. It is actually worth it. You add so many builds, so many cool things, and if you don't want to deal with it, just pick another class. It's fine. You know, you
No.
don't have to, or pick other
Oh.
nodes on the same class. You know, you don't have to take that node. So
I think this like very clearly communicates that you're also okay with this idea of there being just like hidden cool stuff to discover that you're not going to know ahead of time, because you can't like look at the class options on the character selection screen and know what the passives are going to be that are hidden behind the Oracle ascendancy, right? So it's like, yeah, that's cool, that's fine.
Yeah, I mean, you just,
I love
I mean, look, there's always going to be community tools, and they're going to come up with a way to make that, you know, to the build guides and all that kind of stuff. So you know, like.
I love the secret stuff.
Yeah.
I actually got my secret Abyssal Lich.
Exactly.
Wow.
That's what I said last
Actual
week.
final
That
a secret.
having
Maybe there's
something
more.
that's like
You
unique
don't
to
know.
something and it's secret and it's not something that's obvious. It's not something you know until you do it.
I love it.
I
love people having cool
that is
secret
the
things they
coolest
can
shit
find
ever
isn't
in
just
an
like
ARPG.
1000%
I
pre-planned.
really
out
love
of the
that.
gate. Like,
I think that
understand
they
the
nailed
need
it
to
with the
plan,
Abyssal
understand the need
Lich.
to
That was
have confidence in a
absolutely
build, and you don't want to go
like
in and
so
only realize you've made the
impressive
wrong
and so
decisions and stuff like
brilliant.
that,
I
for sure, but
really
I
like
definitely
that.
want to find that balance where you have that while you also get your cool secrets that you get to add to the game. That
Yes,
Yeah.
I
think
love
there's, like,
that.
a couple more chat questions on Druid, but we'll try and move on to the other stuff soon, because I know people want to talk about the other thing. I could talk about Druid all day. I think the design's super interesting here. But some of the questions were that I think people are a bit confused about like the talismans and the forms and how that stuff works. So the talismans are effectively just like another weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
And things like attack speed, movement speed on gear, and everything will affect you in your
Yeah,
movement.
absolutely,
Animal
right.
forms. It's
Absolutely.
not like, I think because a lot of other games do it where when you change form, like all of a sudden, oh, your weapon's not affecting you, or this thing's not affecting
Right.
you.
Well, I mean, effectively, so we're doing the changing form by utilizing weapon swaps. So you've got two weapon sets inherently, and the talisman effectively serves as your weapon. Yeah, like if you're playing a druid, you are going to have to learn how to use weapon specialization passives and stuff like that if you want to have the spellcaster and melee thing. Now, a lot of the passive tree nodes, like in the druid section of the tree, all have like attack and spell damage and that kind of stuff. So like certainly for most of the start of the class, you won't have to worry about it. But as you get deeper in, and if you want to do hybrid spell attack, you are going to have to think about like, okay, what are my attack passives, what are my spell passives, and do that.
I
Okay.
was actually surprised at how simple and straightforward it was to do. So like the weapon specialization tree thing, you still do need to think about and understand how that works. But the basic, like using the actual skills, just happens automatically. Like I didn't ever have to actually go in and tag a
No.
skill
You don't
as
have
a
to worry
certain
about that
thing.
part. Just because of the fact that because this has always been the rule, but it's really apparent here. Like if it'll swap to the weapon set that can use the ability, so therefore you don't have to actually tweak it. You just put it in and it kind of works.
Yeah, like if I tried to use my spell, it would shift to human
Yeah,
automatically
exactly,
and use the staff.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so like that
Yeah,
was
yeah.
all automated, and I didn't have to like program like that.
Right.
Like like I have on some other builds, I guess,
Right.
where it's a
But
bit.
yeah,
more
mostly that's just
unclear.
because you get into a situation with those where because it's usable on both, you have to start going in there and tweaking that stuff. But here, because it makes it much simpler when you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, so there's a decent onboarding there, given the potential complexity of that. All right, so we'll move on now to the Fate of the Vaal expansion, and there's definitely more of a like clear divide between the two things, and you even actually made two separate trailers this time around.
Well, it would have been super weird to have these like two completely clashing themes in the trailer. So yeah, in the end we were like, that's like normally of course we'd make one trailer with everything, but we're kind of like, man, it's really hard to unify these two things in a kind of reasonable
That's
way. So yeah, in the end we decided to
actually
do two
really
trailers and
true.
just, like, show the
Like
context.
those two things don't go together like
No,
that.
not at all,
Has to
right?
be, right?
Yeah,
Like-
Yeah, they're
exactly.
not. Aside from both of them having a buttocks in it, they're not connected.
Yeah,
That just happens.
Yeah,
No, don't cut off
total
here.
accident, by the way. It was just like two totally unrelated.
Yeah, sure. I was praising the equality of it. Like,
Right.
yeah, I was great.
Last week we got the mermaid
Thank you.
with her tatas on, and this week we're getting a series just taking like a skinny dip in blood. I like it.
This
That's
expansion
crazy.
Definitely feels much more deeply linked in.
That's
the campaign
wild.
story, to the point where,
I
like,
want the
everyone is saying,
display
"Go back in time
with
and
a
try and
Siri.
change these
Can I get
things
the
in
display?
campaign." It's like a major campaign story beat
Yeah,
thing
so I
going
mean,
on now.
there's a few things going on there. So, like initially, like this league, unlike I think what we've done too much of in the past, the storyline develops quite a lot more, kind of like through the campaign with different events that happen. And so
I really love the fact they went back and
one of the things we sort of
did a lot of the uniques that was underutilized.
what
that
leagues
that
do.
thing was like
It's
really
you've got this situation where you're like walking
high
out
on
of
my
town
list too.
and, like, you know, literally the first area. And it's
I
like
didn't
some
put it in the
government
top
entities
10,
immediately
but that was
recruiting
really
your
high on
services,
my
you know
list
what I mean?
too.
Like, it's
Probably
like,
11th.
It's actually very like
Put this
unfortunate.
rusty thing in your body.
Exactly right. So we kind of wanted to try and make sure that there's a little bit more like of like a. It doesn't feel like the world is on your shoulders like right from the get go. Like there's actually like a little bit a growth of epicness throughout the league. So like if we'd have had it, so it's like you're time traveling into the past. Like the moment you walk out the gate, it's like okay, it's just not quite right. So we decided what we'll do is we'll make so that, you know, there is the temple. We've got a kind of like almost a baby version of the mechanic where you've got a lesser number of rooms, like it's kind of a bit simpler, like to start out with. And then once you pass the sort of key point in the storyline, then it like really opens up. You go into the past, you've got a little more story stuff going on. It did add quite a lot more work to kind of have to make 2 versions of a bunch of things and that kind of stuff. But I think it is worth it because it means that it feels like the league has a lot more going on, it just doesn't kind of break you don't break immediately the feeling of the world, which has been a problem in the past.
I have very strong opinions on this one.
Yeah,
It's like dark horror gothic secondary. I'm 3 dimensions deep of, you know, like I'm in the past and or in some sort of demon realm now. I don't know what's going on here.
And I mean, it's fine as you go, but this is actually one of the challenges I think we're going to have just designing leagues generally, is that they're going to require a bit more work to make them feel right. I mean, even just something as simple as like the Vaal sacrifice circles that you get throughout the world. Normally what we would have done is like make one thing and call it a day. Here what we've done is we've got like 10 or more. It's a ton of variations of those where for like each act we're like, in like for each area we're thinking like, okay, which like we need more of these so that we can use them so they feel natural in the place where they are, like do a bit of material reskin, stuff like that. Like that's kind of the stuff that we now need to do to sort of make it feel like you're not breaking
like
the world stuff.
the PoE1 style, you know, betrayal basement. You know, you just okay, so there's just a basement everywhere, like in the mud flats. Like, okay, you know, that just doesn't fly anymore at all. So like we want to make sure that these things are way more believable.
Right.
Like you are actually convinced. You're like, you know, this makes sense. You know, I'm not just in a basement in the mud flat in a swamp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, the Vaal is a very distinct thing, and it's very like tied to Act 3 as well. So I was a bit worried about like the tone of Act 1 with the Vaal stuff, but then like it fits in reasonably well. Like you've definitely taken good care to make sure that it doesn't.
Well, I mean, it's a matter of making it feel like there's some ancient ruin that then later someone came along, like some Ezomites went there and they built some stones around it because they're like, well, what is this thing? And like, we just thought a little bit about like how would the culture here have reacted to the fact that there was this ancient ruin from long ago in this location and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
That
And,
makes
you
so
mentioned
much
to me that
sense.
This is the bar for what you want to be doing. This is the quality level for what you want to be doing.
So I'd say that like it does sort of. I would say here, like the level of polish and the stuff that we're doing, like the amount of content that a league needs to actually be good. Like, you know, obviously when we did 020, the league was a little bit like, you know, it was just the Asmerian spirits, and like, I mean, it was a league, but it wasn't really. Didn't have like the depth of content and stuff that you needed. And then with 030, I think we did a lot better. Like it came a lot better, but I still don't think we quite got there in terms of
that was
like
the PoE1 level kind of.
And then this one here, I think like, you know, you get up to the level of quality that we really want to be delivering in PoE2, like, you know, post release and everything, and like the kind of the amount of content you need for a league. Like it needs to be quite sizable and good, and it did take a lot of effort, but I think it's worth it because you sort of shows you what we can do when we.
I like
So
that.
it's like a high bar that you've effectively kind of like locked in, committing to for expansions.
Well, hopefully I don't come to regret it, but you know, it's and honestly the scope did explode a little bit because when we, I think that one of the things. So when I initially designed the league, I was kind of like, okay, we're going to have like some limited number of rooms. We kind of spec'd it out, and like we, you know, each one will have a few levels, and it kind of didn't seem like it was that large. But really, in the context of PoE2, it's like, well, if you're going to spend effort to upgrade a room, it needs to feel meaningfully different and have meaningfully better rewards and all that stuff, and it pretty soon expands into like a really huge list of like different combat encounter mechanics and different like crafting mechanics and different rewards and everything. Like there are so many new rewards and things in just in the temple. It's crazy. Like, you know, there's a lot there. Like certainly the number of expanded crafting options and all that sort of stuff. I mean, you know, we could take some inspiration from what PoE1 did with Incursion, you know, in terms of double crops and stuff, but we had to make it work in a PoE2 context. You know, there's just a lot there.
Yeah, I've followed your progress with designing this one from the very beginning.
Yeah, the funny thing is about that is that it actually came from a game that you recommended that I play.
I wasn't going to even say it.
So you recommended that I play this game called Loop Hero, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, everyone's going to think that the game we're inspired by is Blueprints, but it actually wasn't. It was Loop Hero.
It was so good because I told you about that game, and then it was like a week later or something, you sent me a message like, "Hey, I've made this little program."
Yeah. So I prototyped up like a thing that's for what would become the UI for Incursion. We actually ended up. It's funny because this is like the first league I've actually personally done.
I haven't
code on
heard
in
of
quite
that.
a long time.
You really got into it.
Yeah. Because I mean,
That's
it was a real fun, just like evening thing to like go and just like work on this design. One of the great things about doing that is that I got to make so many design changes just in the course of like of writing it, like, which I don't think necessarily would have gone exactly the same way if I was getting other people to do it. So yeah, that was really fun. And just make a and then effectively the back of it is like the code that I wrote, but obviously the UI of it is like a whole thing that a bunch of other people worked on and made look really awesome. But yeah, that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, what is it like about this one that grabbed you so much? Because you got so involved and so personally, like working on it at home.
Yeah, I just really enjoy this kind of like little game within a game, like little metagame things. And just that dungeon design thing is just a really fun thing for me.
Tile placing.
Yeah,
It's good, right?
it's really fun.
Love a good tile place.
And I just like coming up with all the little ways that they can interact and that kind of thing, and try to make one each feel a bit different and that kind of stuff. It's just a good time.
Yeah, and it's got this like iterative design where you're building a temple, you run it like it's a really small one at first, and then it crumbles a bit, but you're still kind of building on what you're doing each time.
Yeah.
It's like a weird kind of like roguelike-y thing without being a roguelike itself.
Yeah.
Exactly. So with that design then, I'm curious, like does it like fully reset at some point? Like for example, when you kill at Zeri or
It never
something?
fully resets, but when you kill at Zeri or defeat an architect, quite a lot of the temple gets destroyed. So there's this kind of destabilization thing. It goes back to not the start, but kind of I think it removes like 2/3 of the rooms. There's some number like that it gets rid of at that point, and then you kind of have to build up again. That's just that effectively means that like when you do those options, you're getting like new reward rooms and things to play. So it's giving you new goals, and then you have to work towards those goals again. And then ideally, those reward rooms can be rewarding enough that the benefit of going back to smaller is I'd say the negative of going back to smaller is completely outweighed by the benefits you're getting from the extra rooms that you're able to place.
So you can juice it a fair bit too.
You can,
because
yeah.
There's a lot of like modifiers that are getting added on each room, and you can place quite a lot of them.
Yeah,
like,
you can, yeah.
Do you foresee people building out like a huge temple and then kind of not having it decay as much as possible?
Yeah,
like
I mean,
Zeri?
it's absolutely intended that you'll do that. Like, I mean, once you've defeated at Zeri enough times, you've got the uniques from there, and you've done like other things like that. Then you absolutely will like probably want like for ultra end game play when you really want like the most challenging stuff, and you're just like looking to get like as many double corrupts as you can and stuff like that. You're probably going to want to keep the temple large and specifically not do the stuff that would cause it to destabilize. Because if you don't kill the architect and you don't kill at Zeri, then it will it'll only pull you back. I can't remember the exact number of rooms, but there's some number of rooms that go away when it's quite full, and then you can just juice it really high and have really challenging in-game scaling tier of stuff. Because one of the things we were sort of concerned about is that there is some in-game content that just doesn't really scale as hard as it needs to scale in order to make it properly in-game viable.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure that this was not the case here, that it actually does scale enough into the in-game.
Okay, so like designed to be pretty farmable and to be pretty late game relevant.
Of course, yeah.
It gets pretty hectic with all those mods.
Yeah.
With how many rooms are on there and like.
Yeah. But also just other things that you want to do, like so for example at the start of the game you can only you can't like store up temple runs, as it were. As you get into the game, then now we start to have it so that you can store up more runs, so that you can like map for a while, then like do a bunch of incursions.
I think we have it that eventually you can do 60 maps and then temples, and then 60 maps, then temples.
If you want. So
or you can do 6, then a temple, then 6, then a temple.
So you can effectively store
anywhere
10
runs,
in between. 10 runs
Nice.
if you want.
I feel like with these things, like now I keep seeing like, you guys have thought of it.
Well, the thing is that we've got so much experience and stuff. I mean, like so for example, the whole like taking the currency away from the temple instead of having to craft inside the temple thing.
Yes.
Like that's just a hard learned lesson from PoE1 where you just need to.
You say we thought of it, and I have, because I'm just going to bring it up. But like, and a thing about, and this is something that I'm on the fence about a little bit. Personally, but yeah, the thing with the killing architect and at Zeri, destroying a bunch of the temple, creating that clash of either farm temple or farm boss, can be quite a divisive thing for people.
Right.
You're looking at Betrayal Katarina, right? And the exact same thing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, we've now on PoE1, we separated those two things so they're not, because it always felt bad doing one or the other. Or it could feel bad doing one or the other, depending on how the balance went. And so you might get a similar thing here. Now, of course, the amount of the temple that can get destroyed is variable, and there's a bunch of stuff we can obviously tweak. But yeah, like getting that right and feeling right will be important. It's honestly hard to say if it is right now. But it's a thing, we say we've thought about it, but it can be very easy to see that and be like, hey, they're doing the same mistake they've made last time. Which, you're not wrong. except depending on honestly having the lever this time in place of how much gets destroyed instead of
planned for
entire
that.
board reset kind of thing. We get to control that a lot better and iterate on that if we need to. So
Yeah, that's true. You've already
we've thought
established-
about it, but it can. I could see because I was just thinking about it, going, I reckon people are going to get mad at this. And I was just looking at it, going like, the idea that it's like, hold on, I can't farm the bosses. I either have to pick bosses or pick temple. It can be quite bad.
Well,
so
yeah, that's clear then that you've kind of already got your hand hovering over the lever waiting to like adjust it as needed.
yeah, and it's honestly kind of hard to know with. I mean, even if it's.
Well, the thing with this sort of stuff specifically is you're talking about that's the type of gameplay that is hard to test internally.
Yeah,
Because how can you do just like you can't really test like what is weeks of grinding gonna feel like, you know? It's
Yeah. You
So
can't-
I expect us to maybe we hit the sweet spot. Who knows? Hopefully, but I could imagine that this is a thing that gets adjusted for sure.
Yeah, so you've made the like the ability to sell like the corruptions, the double corruptions as an itemizable thing you can just take away and sell. Is there any reason to like itemize the temple like we did in PoE 1?
Nah, so that was really more of a band-aid solution in PoE 1 because we didn't have an easy way to change that. Like I'd prefer that the temple is your temple and that you don't sell them, but just that all the rewards are the things that you can trade. Like trading the rewards was the reason why I did our temple itemization in the first place. Just if this time we're just making sure to design the stuff in a way that can be take back that you can take with you.
No need for the
I think that was a
Yeah,
really good choice.
There's some really basic crafts that like your classic exalted orbs and stuff like that. Mostly, honestly, in the campaign.
Yeah.
And this is so when you're doing the temple, you're getting not just the opportunity, like because obviously some of that double corrupt stuff, you're not going to do that at like level 8, you know. I mean, Vaal orbs aren't even in the game at that point. So you have this thing where. It's like, well, you don't get a lot of the crafting. Now, there are still rewards. There is, of course, all of that, but there's also just basic crafts like exalts and regals and stuff you can just throw on your gear. Now, you can't take those, and that is an intentional decision so that you feel like you're actually wanting to use it on your gear in the campaign and as you're progressing. And you're not, because if you can take it, most of the time you're just going to hoard it for in-game.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's those things to make the early game have more crafting stuff that you want to just use right
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, what stops you from just like keeping your results until end game?
Yeah, yeah.
You want to use those
so
patches then.
you'll see those and go, I want to take that home, but just use it.
Yeah.
You know?
It was a substantial buff to campaign crafting from my experience of messing with it so far. It's like you basically go in and there's like 6 crafting rooms and you're like just going a little crafting spree of like upgrading your gear. But, like,
Yeah, I mean the temple. We it's funny because there's always the question whenever we make a league of like, well, what if people always say, oh, there's no reason to do this during the campaign, and it's like really have to incentivize that to make it so that no, there's actually worth doing. Like you're going to get a substantial power boost if you decide to engage with the league.
Yeah, you could. It seems like you can kind of like hold off as well. Like you can be like, oh, my gear's kind of okay now. I'm gonna do that a little bit later.
You always want it to be both feeling rewarding and give you obviously an advantage, and also not feel so mandatory that you're like, ugh, what?
Yeah,
the,
it felt like kind of a bit optional in the sense that like, oh, I really need some gear upgrades now. Let's go into the temple and spice up all my gear.
Perfect.
Nice.
That's what we want.
Yeah, cool. And it is interesting that you've got this like raiding the broken down version of the temple in the beginning, and then it basically changes into this whole other thing halfway through the campaign. That story beat there.
The other thing about the campaign thing is the same thing we learnt from Abyss, where we did the.
I might have to ask again.
Area specific rewards throughout the campaign. We have also dropped.
No.
Dropping here from the in-world encounters.
Yeah.
So even if you're not doing the temples, doing the in-world encounters can give you that extra drop per area.
It seems like on the back end maybe you've kind of taken what Abyss was doing and almost shifted it over.
Yeah. There's
pretty
some
much.
modifications, but yeah, it's the same kind of thing.
Well, we've effectively got our, allocated amount of rewards and crafting and stuff for what a league is allowed to do and should do, and we're just trying to make sure that, it fulfills that it fills that budget, so to speak.
Right.
Of
You're getting a lesser jewels or been Keth or something like that, like kind of similar to before, which is good. But yeah, I was definitely, that was a huge thing with Abyss. I thought that was like a really good improvement to the campaign, so it's good to see you continuing with that. Then it felt pretty successful as a design decision. Nice. I'm really glad double corruption is back. I feel like that's a great thing from PoE 1 to be returning.
one thing we've changed here is that because double corrupt existed in PoE 1, you
what was the last one?
you never Vaal orb gear. Well, I don't say never. Obviously, there are still cases, but generally speaking, why single corrupt it when you could double corrupt it. So we've made sure here that the double corrupt has to occur on top of a corrupted item.
That's cool.
Right.
So yeah, you have to Vaal Orbs, land it, and then you have to land the double corrupt on top of that. So
Oh man, it almost feels like you're in some cases risking something even more, because like you've got that really high-end unique with like a really good corruption already, and now you're risking that. You're not just risking a blank item on a double corruption. So like it's a heftier risk now in some cases.
I like it.
That's the Vaal spirit right there.
Like, oh man, this thing's already worth many divines at this point. I was like, oh no.
Some good streamer moments. So
For
So
sure.
you actually have to though, like it has to be corrupted.
yep, so you corrupt first, and then you can apply double corrupt.
Ah, okay,
yeah.
cool. It keeps a usefulness of the Vaal Orbs there as well to kind of.
Yeah, I didn't
solutions
want to
there.
Vaal Orbs to just. I mean,
Yeah,
you'd still use them
that
on
was
lightweight stones or whatever, but you know, I didn't want them to just be like never used on gear anymore, because you'd rather just double corrupt it. And so it was a suggestion a developer made a while back, and I was like, you know, that's immediately a win, and I almost want to change that in PoE1 as well, but then I just forgot about it, to be honest. So, you know, I'm not sure if I do want to do that, just before everyone maybe goes like, what the hell, no? But, you know, I like the idea, and I think it is an overall improvement,
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. And then you've got this whole other system now, which you had a little bit of it in PoE1 recently, where you can corrupt uniques and it replaces a random modifier on them.
Yes.
So
Vaal
this
bomb.
is limited to specifically Adziri. No, what
Not at
is it?
Zeri, Vaal uniques. Yeah, so
uniques.
we initially, I really wanted to make it so you could just replace arbitrary mods on any unique, but the
Crazy.
problem is, yes, it was just a
Unhinged.
can of worms that like was just not even possible to contain. Yeah, basically what we were like, okay, is there still a way to do this that's like not going to be quite so crazy? And then we were like, okay, if we can pick a subset of uniques, and we ended up going with Vaal uniques, you know, for obviously thematic reasons, then we can sort of make sure that like while it's still crazy, like there's some sort of insane interactions, we can kind of at least have somewhat of an understanding of what happens. But it does truly work where like it picks a random mod that's on the item and then replaces it with another random mod. So yeah, you can create some.
You can use it on non-Vaal. It works differently.
Huh?
I don't know.
what?
This is news to me. I didn't actually know that. What is that?
Excuse me?
I think it's similar to Ancient Orb in PoE1, so it like re-rolls it. The idea here is like it's meant to work on these Vaal items because they've been like
Incompatible item error.
infused with royal bloodline
Yeah.
blood, and
Okay.
so it's like the way it works on Vaal uniques is different to just random uniques, where it's like, hold on, it works a bit more chaotically here, and
Right.
you know, just changes the item entirely to something else on non-Vaal. So, and I only say that because obviously it's pretty bad to be like, I have to have a Vaal unique in order to use this.
Right.
No, you can take the currency home, so that's never the end of the world. But I want it to be like, you know, just go grab some random unique and re-roll it. Yeah, using it on the Vaal uniques is like quite cool. Right now, I'm trying to make sure, you know, a process that we've been doing is that we're not just replacing it with kind of just some random basic stuff. Like, that will happen. That is a part of the pull, but we're trying to go through, because we have a more limited set of uniques we have to actually do the mod replacement on. I want to make sure we're actually thinking about, for example, the Zerfi's body armor that has, like, Soul Leader. And it's like a level 39 base type.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, like, this is a tool we could use to make that more in-game viable. And so you can do things like heavily increase the defenses, because obviously level 39 versus a level 75 base type or whatever is going to have very different defenses. But then you could also be like, what about if I was like, what other weaknesses does this item have? Well, you can't generate Soul Eater stacks on a boss. Maybe this can turn that on, you know? And so also you can replace, I don't know, the life regeneration rate with a Soul Eater now generates once per second while a boss is in your presence, or something like that, you know?
That's
now
fucking
these are kind of examples, but that was a specific one that I really wanted to do. So, but I was like,
They
I don't know
shouldn't-
if you did
why didn't
plus
they put that in
25
the
Soul Eater
video?
stacks and stuff, but it's like very specific outcomes, very specific to that unique.
Yeah.
And I wanted to do a bit of that to use it as an opportunity to be able to save low-level uniques, if you know what I mean, to make them more in-game viable. And I thought that was a cool way, and obviously that's restricted to the Vaal pool for now, but like, if it works and works successfully, there's no reason that like some other mechanic can't do it for AesOfSp8
You've established
uniques
the
and other,
concept
you know.
now, yeah.
So, you know, we'll see how it goes, but I'm hoping now, obviously, because I don't know how far through we'll get with all of these specific, because it's like a lot of stuff. Once you start doing specific things for specific uniques,
There's so many
it's
things.
a lot of stuff to implement. So I don't know how far, but I was like, let's start with the mythic uniques, the rarest, most powerful ones, and we'll work backwards, getting to the more common, ones at the end.
I
and
mean,
then
you've also
we'll-
got just the general like buffing of a bunch of other uniques as well, right? I mean, there's a lot of that.
Yes,
going on.
true. And I mean, that was part of that when I was like, okay, how can we buff this? How can we buff this? How can we buff this? And then I was like, well, a lot of them are like, this is too low level. And I was like, well, we have this system in the league. So yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes, hopefully. And it's the kind of thing where even if we don't, obviously these leagues end up often going core in some various means. So if we don't hit the mark entirely with all the uniques, I'd like to eventually get there where we'd have a good, cool, really thought out set for literally every Vaal unique. So hopefully that's fun. And then you do the cool things where you just get these really, really... I assume you're going to get some that have these... You replace the exact 2 bad sides with the exact 2... Because you can replace more than one sometimes.
Oh.
And you get the you get the exact, like, holy, this unique just went from being worth, something 1 divine to 300 divine, kind of territory.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully that happens. If it doesn't happen, I'll be a bit sad, but we'll try. You can never know with these things for sure.
And this includes the new, like, Adzira uniques that she's dropping then, obviously,
Yep.
since she's kind of the queen of the Vaal.
Yep,
isn't it?
Zero uniques, trial master uniques, bunch of stuff. So
A fair few there then. Is that something that you
Oh.
anticipate expanding upon? in
The fucking shield.
I mean, we'll be always adding more Vaal uniques.
Right.
So yes,
But
and
in terms of for other cultures, that would probably come in a different form in a
Yeah.
different league mechanic or some other place like that.
Yeah, that makes sense for
Yeah.
sure.
In terms of the overall idea of upgrading low level uniques.
Yeah. Did you ever like discuss the idea of Vaal skill gems? It feels like weird to like add that when you're still adding regular
Yeah,
gems. I
it
imagine.
doesn't quite. So I mean, fundamentally, what a Vaal skill gem is in PoE 1 is like a kind of ultimate type style ability in some
Yeah.
sense, So it's like we're kind of doing that in our
You're already
normal
doing it,
gems at this
yeah.
point. So it didn't really quite make sense to do it here.
it's like the glory on the
Yeah,
skills
glory
is kind of
kind of like
Vaal
yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. That it's
Yeah.
kind of like you'd only be really doing it for nostalgia,
Right,
really,
right.
at this point. I think.
Now, that isn't to say there won't be something in the future, but I agree that doing something like that when you haven't even got, all the classes and skills in place and all that, I would say that's a like a post-release feature, not a pre-release feature kind of thing.
Yeah. And are you still kind of with challenge leagues planning on having things like challenges, challenge rewards, etc.
So
like
the
post-launch?
So the plan for that was post-launch. Like
Yeah.
it basically was kind of like during early access, it doesn't quite make sense to do that. But post-launch we will return to that again.
Right, shifting onto the topic of endgame, but first, just a brief detour. Trial of the Ancestors, or the mystery contents in the new act, and our third means of ascending. What's the progress like? on that? That's
Well, we don't
obviously
have
not
anything to say at the
happening
moment, but it'll need to come obviously at some point. But we didn't have time in this one certainly to work on that.
Okay,
It's coming
so
up,
no new
it is
ascent.
really just a matter
That's
of when, at what cost, etc. The classic, just resource distribution kind of things where it's like, when are we going to do it, and what, instead of this, and we have all these different ideas, and so but right now, nothing.
All right. So on endgame, firstly, thanks for nerfing the delirium fog.
Yeah.
You saw the memes, I guess.
For sure.
So I've been enjoying the little foggy memes everywhere. That's good. Visibility improvement for the end game, but not only that, like you guys didn't just tone down the fog. You've done some pretty major things with the
So I mean,
Waystone system.
I mean, the very first question, and before we even toned down the fog, the first question was, okay, well, why do you feel like you have to run every map this way in the first place, right? Like
Yeah.
the fact that something feels mandatory is already a problem, regardless of the
Yeah.
fact that the effect is also annoying. So that was the first thing to solve, and it really then started coming into, okay, well, like how people are finding Waystone crafting more annoying, and we only made it more annoying in Abyss with the having to go somewhere else and get it, like it just made it not not particularly great. So the first question is, well, how can we fix this problem, right? Like, and effectively we're kind of like, we can go two ways with this. We can either make it so that every league has something that feels mandatory that multiplies with the rewards, or we can say no leagues do, in which case it's more about like which league do you want to run for different for various different content that they can provide. So we decided to go with no leagues do, because I think that it's probably just like less busy work, less annoying. Like if every league gave you something that you needed to like craft and do something with, it just would have been a pain. Which is why even in the live stream we're like, from this point on, just like Waystones, they all get regular, they'll have the regular crafting, just regular base currency, but we're never ever going to add to them again, and like a thing that requires you to do more crafting than
another
that.
layer.
Another layer of that, because I think that having to do that every map is too frequent. Doing it on the tablets means that it's just way less frequent that you have to do these things, which helps a lot. And then of course the question was, well, yeah, how can we make sure that we're not like doing a nerf to overall juicing potential here? So then we had to look into how can we get back the the power you had. So that's when we got into the extra mods on tablets and things like that, in order to sort that out.
Now, obviously, you were hoping to do more end game for this expansion. So, what's kind of happened with the?
Well, I guess the sort of two things that we see as like the major problems in endgame. One of them is when you get there, it can feel like you don't really have a proper goal. Like you don't have immediate okay, here's a quest to do this and a quest to do that and that kind of stuff. So there's like a little bit of that missing, and that really is a content thing that just requires us to expand upon what a league is. Now, something like something like Fate of the Vaal, it immediately has story stuff to do and so on. So when that goes to endgame later, you'll have like storyline things sort of built in a way that can like make it so you've got that. But the other leagues don't have that as much, so we need to really make sure we're expanding on those. But the other thing as well is the Atlas tree just needs a lot more love and attention and like the way it works and all sorts of stuff. So we just need to do a lot lot more there.
I opened that tree yeday and I was like, oh, this sucks.
It's a little tragic.
It sucks.
Like, so
I'm glad we are in agreement here.
You have to spend a lot of time and attention making new notables that are cool, that require like actually modify things in cool ways and like actually really meaningfully do something. And that's just a lot of time and work to do that. So
do you have an idea for what you want to do with the ascendancy tree side of things? Like, is it kind of angling more towards what you've done in Public League, which has been pretty successful?
Well, I don't think we should be talking about that yet, just because that'll be it's more for later. But yeah, I mean, there's things we want to do.
Yeah,
there's stuff we want to do.
We're
not happy with it.
a bit of trying not to spoil anything here. We obviously are spoiling the fact we are doing something. And I'll tell you, it's not even. It's not the same. It's not similar. It's like it's in a whole different universe. So it's kind of like, which makes it a little bit hard because obviously we're in this state where we want feedback about the in game.
Yeah,
and so I do want to put like people should keep giving feedback because I don't want people to think they're reworking it in game anyway. So I'm not going to say anything, just in case. You never know.
There's
and we
also
also
different parts of the in game that kind of are like independent of the just things like how the Atlas tree works.
Yep.
So
But yes, that tree is effectively going to be completely reinvented. So that will get a full drastic change. And then the something that like PoE 1 with the whole complete your Atlas being a very clear, very obvious goal. You just complete all the maps and you get your Atlas is complete. And then there's heaps more beyond that. Of course, there's all the boss farming and all the different progressions and even that has like multiple quests throughout the main quest line with the different pinnacles and all that. We just don't have any of that really. It's just immediately into this infinite unguided adventure, and there's a little bit of things with the corrupted zones and bit of that and like the burning monolith but it's still mostly unguided. You don't really feel like you have like I've completed the main thing, now I'm going to farm at the moment. It's pretty unsatisfying, I'd say. So really trying to drive that home. And then the other thing that honestly we spoke about upgrading the leagues and adding more bosses is like that whole like having King in the Mists and Olroth as the pinnacle bosses of the leagues just being like copy pastes from PoE 1 was not our end goal. You know what I mean? Like they're a bit sad as pinnacles right now, and like honestly we need to up the epic a lot. So we've got a lot of that coming, and then just general upgrades to all the leagues. Like some of them are too, Ritual has the whole omens are too good, and others are just like, well, why would I do this? And there's a bit of that going on. So just a general balance and via adding more content and different axes and all kinds of stuff. So there's heaps coming. But based on all that, to answer the original, is that's how you can see how it didn't make the cut, because it is a ton of work. It turned out to be way more than we had anticipated, and it was just like, oh, damn, we kind of talked about wanting to do an in-game upgrade, a big revamp in 040, and now we've got too much work, and we still believe it's the right thing to do, so we're going to commit. And normally we often get faced with the option: do we cut it down to make it fit, or do we commit to it all and do it? And I don't think in this case we could have cut anything without kind of just honestly making it look half-assed, to be honest. So we were like, no, we need to do it all, which means, unfortunately, yes, it's not going to make 040. But then we were like, well, we can't just now do nothing. So what can we do? Well, obviously, we're not just going to be like, because we're doing an 050, we'll just leave the fog alone.
Yeah.
Obviously bad, which was a bug, by the way.
Really?
All fogs, like the volumetric fogs in the game, have a cutout around the player.
Yeah.
That like cuts out and then tapers off. And all fogs in the games, there's multiple different fogs, had it except for Delirium Fog. It was the only fog that didn't have this. So that was well, like, we can start there by re-adding it, and then we'll iterate until we feel like it's about right. But yeah. Kind of sad when you look into these things and you're like, oh damn, it was just broken the whole time. But either way, like, you know, a player doesn't know if it's broken or just intended, so obviously fixing it is the important thing. But
It definitely felt wrong.
The guy on Reddit doing a post every day, and
They can finally rest.
your thank you for your service.
Your watch is complete. Yes, we can actually see the ground. It was just hilarious in some maps, whereas like they have holes in the ground and like there's so much fog you actually can't tell where the holes are. It's like I can't move anywhere. It looked a lot better from the footage, so it's a big improvement for sure. So you mentioned that, but there was also another kind of key change that you wanted to make sure to get in this one, and that was the kind of like monster density getting swarmed issue.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one because so when we were doing 031, this was actually already a thing that we were tabling and talking about. But we kind of thought that players probably wouldn't like it because the like monster density can be a very touchy thing, right? But the funny thing is that what we found was that even after we what we actually sort of heard more was like, oh, we actually liked what the improvements were early in game, and we actually would wish that the rest of the in-game was more like that. And we're like, okay, well, if that's the case, then like the main thing we have to do is not like nerf rewards, make sure that experience gain doesn't get lowered or anything like that. But overall, we don't necessarily need as many monsters as what we were having in the top. And I think this is actually going to also just generally improve things because it makes when monsters have more life like that, it makes more builds viable. Because like there's obviously a point where like once you can one-hit everything, then there's no point in like you might as well just go for whatever the fastest thing that can do that is, right?
Yeah, the lightning speed.
Right. So effectively, by making it so that monster life's a little bit higher as you get up there, it sort of actually means that like higher damage builds become more useful. The
need for having to target so many enemies goes down.
Exactly,
and thus
right.
You aren't just now funneled into the highest AoE thing possible.
So it means that like things that are less AoE focused and more like, I mean, obviously you're still going to want AoE, you're still going to want to be clearing like that sort of stuff, of course. But like effectively, just by tweaking it down a bit, you just don't have the like so much need for everything to target quite so many things. And so the sort of higher damage.
That's got to like help a lot on performance.
Not like more than a screen in size can actually be viable, and that should hopefully improve the situation.
I want to make sure that even if people are like, but I prefer the swarminess, and it was fun for my build. And the thing is, like, that, speaking of, like, Atlas Tree, that's a thing where the Atlas Tree should be the thing thing that you can, it's like your build can do that. Yeah. So, like, I want to make sure, like, for now, not doing it, but I wanted to do a thing, because we're doing this whole, like, monster effectiveness goes up more, right? I mean, it's a pretty hard thing to understand because monsters just get stronger with higher levels, so like it kind of just happens. You don't really, it's not like a thing you need to worry about or anything of the sort. But I want to do a thing where you can spec into making, like on the Atlas Tree, I guess this is a little bit of a forward spoiler, but we're adding a little bit of it in a few places, but I want to make sure that you can invest into making monsters tougher without increasing the number of monsters, where like often it's just been pack size, and stuff like that. So but then I would love to do a thing later where like you can convert that effectiveness increases you can get into like pack size. So it's like, you know what? Nah, I want the swarmy, weaker monsters thing. And I don't want one to, at that point you can make sure the conversion results in the exact same amount of drops and XP and all of that stuff.
That way you incentivize. Well, you don't incentivize one or the other, right? Like it's more about what your build is, what you'd prefer, rather than being like everyone has to have most pack size as possible.
Whereas right now, pack size is just a straight up multiplicative drops XP scaler. I mean, obviously not for rares and bosses, but it is, and for a lot of people, it's a multiplicative fun scaler, and I don't want to take that away. Like I want people to be able to do that, but that's what the Atlas Tree should be able to achieve. However, it is too chaotic at a base level.
Right.
You get this weird thing where it's like the campaign has a entirely different vibe to the end of the end game now, where it's like you step into the end game, it's kind of alright, and then you get towards the end. I mean, at the start, for people who didn't play 031 onwards, it was just like, oh, okay, I'm going through the campaign. It feels a bit more tactical. Feels a bit more, intention. My actions are more intentional. And then I get into endgame, I'm like, what the heck is going on? There's monsters everywhere. It's out of control. And so obviously 031 alleviated this a bit, but it is. I don't want it to be that there's this feeling of there's two games there. I want it to be that you build that extra layer, that you change it through your atlas tree and through decisions you make for the end game, as opposed to it just being inherent. So if you want to, we're going to make sure that we try and keep it that if you want to make it more swarmy and that kind of stuff, you can, but it doesn't give you a drop advantage necessarily over the tougher monsters. There are reasons to do both. That's fine. There'll be heaps of mechanics and stuff, but like, ideally you can kind of play the game you want to play the game, and so in our tree and our builds, much like you can play the character how you want to play your character, we can do that with the end game as well. And
like
that's
it.
the beauty of the atlas tree, so, and the keystones and stuff like that. So but I can't, it's hard to get into more of that without getting
That's
into
exactly
like,
what I was saying in the
territory.
top 10 things I wanted
that's
to see
interesting
changed
hear that
too.
You want to kind of make things a little bit less binary, where like in the past it often has been the case where it's just like, oh, you just stack as much of all of the things you can stack, or it's just stack as much pack size or stack as much rarity as you can, but maybe having angles for both of those things, like I'm juicing pack size, or I'm juicing difficulty and rarity with. I mean, that's exciting to me because I like the ability of being able to spec content that rewards your character that has low AoE, that is like really good at like dueling really tough rare monsters. And like, we did get to see a little bit at Imperial 1 where there was different strategies for juicing, where like you had like Titanic Scarabs or something that was making like really strong rogue exiles, and that took a specific sort of build to do. So it sounds like that's kind of the direction you want to head with that, which is pretty exciting to hear. And kind of tying into this topic then, and you touched on it a little bit, was like, there's definitely been, like, it's been noticed that rare monsters seem to drop the vast majority of loot in endgame maps, or at least compared to normal and magic monsters. There's a bigger difference, I guess, than has been the case in the past. And where are you guys at with, like, noticing or feeling that, or what problems do you foresee with that? It gets talked about a lot.
I don't think it's necessarily wrong that it's like that. One of the things we really want to try to make sure of in PoE 2 when we're sort of doing a sort of from scratch pass on this is that the amount of rewardingness of something is equivalent to the amount of difficulty that it takes to kill it.
Yes.
And that's kind of where like we're trying to normalize that, because by doing that it means that we can try to get like we don't want a situation where like some content just is randomly just way more rewarding than other content, and so we're trying to just make sure that we're keeping tabs on that really well. And what that's kind of ended up with regard to the magic versus rare is like we've got the balance of that where it should in an ideal world be the case that like killing a rare versus killing a white monster is does in fact drop the correct amount of rewards relative to each other. Now the issue can come with the fact is, what if your build can one hit either of them in any case? Well, so that kind of like changes, I guess, the way that feels a little bit. So but as I said, it should be the case that rares drop more than white monsters, and white monsters can drop anything still. It's just
it does make a certain amount of sense, but I guess like with what you were talking about, Mark, it seems like something you'll have to think about, because like if you want both strategies to be viable, like the pack size juicing, then there needs to be a reward, a payoff to that ultimately.
100%.
So that's something you'll be looking at then.
But yeah, I mean, as far as I'm aware, it really is the case that if you looked at entirely just around the life of the entity, the drops should be pretty equivalent to the amount of life that they had to in order to kill them, as far as like relative to each other. So if it's got 5 times as much life, it does 5 times as many more drops effectively. Like that's kind of what we're shooting for when we're trying to balance this stuff.
Yeah, I think with the balance of how things are and the options we have now, it probably makes sense. But yeah, it looks like something you'll be keeping close eye on moving forwards then.
For sure.
There's a bit of a parallel with one of the kind of issues I see in Path of Exile 1, where like everything is in reward icons, little floating symbols. And that seems like something you're trying to avoid moving forward.
We haven't really been doing that for a little while now. There was certainly a period there in PoE 1 design where it was like every single league was just like those reward icon type things, and it ended up really beiging the rewards a lot, because you just had this thing of like every league drops, every other league's drops, and it kind of didn't really like it wasn't really that great. So it's going to be a little while since we've done that stuff in PoE 1 even, and in PoE 2 we kind of steer away from it to make sure that like everything feels like it's got distinct drops and a reason to do it and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it appears in some regards. Like, for example, when you get the reward rooms in Fate of the Vaal, you have a unique item room.
Sure.
Yep.
Like but it's not just like a floating symbol above the monster.
Right.
Yeah.
Which also, you know, immersively, I don't know what the heck that is, but what is it? It's just nothing. It's a clear and just obvious
Like,
game
I
mechanic.
see some like floating, glowing cash money dollar bills above your head. Guy's loaded.
Whoa. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. And, you can't have my loot. But I just remembered you spoke about rare monsters, and I was like, hold on, did we? I don't think we deployed or spoke about this change, but I know that taking away all the rare minimap icons was a bit anger-inducing.
Yeah.
Because honestly, we knew it. We knew it was going to be.
Yeah.
Now, they aren't a requirement of the map, but as you're saying, they kind of drop a lot of the loot, and people were just doing the whole coasting between minimap icons. The middle ground we've come to here, which I think is quite cool, is once you've activated all the checkpoints in the map, which sometimes is 4, 2, you know, the things for fast traveling and respawning, then all of the things
Here on the minimap.
appear on the minimap.
You know, the funny thing is I
That
thought we
is
already
actually
deployed
a good
I don't
idea.
think we have.
that. Okay, right.
That's what I was just remembering. I was like,
We intended to deploy that back when people were complaining about it, and I feel like maybe we just kind of forgot. But
so
that
you
was
just
implemented a while
play your
ago.
map. You generally find
Yeah.
the checkpoints. If you're in a straight line map, there's one at the start, one at the end.
Yeah.
How the heck are you missing rares? Anyway, I don't know, but it can happen.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just reveal the rares; it reveals everything. Not every icon.
Hell yeah.
So strong boxes you missed, rogue exiles you missed.
okay.
Yes.
So basically, you can find if there's any
Thank
content that you
fuck.
still wanted to grab.
Interesting.
Now, some people might argue, hold on, I'm just going to run around the entire map activating them all and then go clear. And I was like, well, okay, if you want to waste time.
Right, but you're going to clear the map while you're doing that, right? So you
You know.
probably clear the whole map anyway.
Yeah, so it's kind of just meant to be a like, look, you've explored at least, I mean, like, if there's generally speaking, if you've got like a big square or circle map, you're going to have 4 checkpoints. You activate all 4. You've at least explored probably 75% of the map, right?
Yeah, it's about
you
kind
know,
of getting
so-
those last things. And
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, look, you're now allowed to see if you missed anything.
But then you can
It's
also
fine.
use the checkpoints to get to the closest place where the stuff you missed
Yeah.
was, which is
True,
kind
yeah.
of nice. So yeah, it kind of helps with that. So
Now-
we did finally find a solution. To
I'm
kind of get
hoping
to
this
know
is
that.
a good middle ground.
Yeah. I like it.
Because yes, so then at least you've done 75% of the map probably without just doing blind mini-map gameplay. And then from that point on, it's like, look, yeah, I get it. You probably missed something. You know where it is now. It should actually maybe overall be even more helpful because it's not just revealing the rares. It's going to reveal even more. So you'll know about everything else you missed. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I understand that was a bit of a aggravation for a lot of people.
Yes.
But you know, that's a perfect example of, again, it's you know, it's why I don't want people to not give feedback, because like this kind of stuff still should be fixed pretty imminently. And so yeah,
it's a good case study because I'm honestly surprised that you did do that because this seemed like I loved the rare icons, but I was definitely a victim of the like I'm only looking at the minimap now, so it kind of seemed like a change for our own good situation. But what you're doing,
I
here-
always only look at the
yeah,
minimap.
it seems like it's saving the players that feel like that they're FOMOing because like, oh, I know I missed like a league mechanic in the map somewhere after
Right.
this, like that is really bumming me out, and then they have to go and crawl back through it and waste a bunch of time. So that's just kind of saving them that. Sounds like a good compromise change. A nice little extra bonus reveal there. Good
that's
stuff.
good. Yeah. You just said rare monsters, and I just had this random like.
Good.
Wait.
What more
did we
words can
do
I
that?
say?
Probably should have put that in the live stream if we hadn't deployed it yet. But yeah, everyone
I
forgot.
fully
Yeah,
It's in the
forgot about
Q&A.
it.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
We shall move on to kind of gear and passives, and this is in the topic of balance and character power, and this sort of stuff has been talked about a fair bit. Something that's mentioned a lot is that the ratio of player power that comes from gear versus what comes from ascendancy and passives is much more tilted towards gear than in Path of Exile 1. And so kind of like roughly for an example, like the average PoE 2 passive is like 10%, whereas the PoE 1 passive is 16%, whereas the amounts on gears are pretty similar. So like the 100% increased fire damage on a wand is consistent as tier 1 affix between both games, meaning that like more of the power is kind of being shifted away from the tree, the thing that you get by default, to gear. So this seems like a conscious decision to make gear more powerful. Is this something like you've thought about or made like specific strides towards?
Probably the main thing that we wanted to do in PoE 2 was make it so that the tree is more like we're trying to be more stringent about how the tree is multiplicative with what your gear does, And that does make gear more important. I wouldn't say there's necessarily been a thing of like necessarily wanting to the amount of power overall that you get from one and the other is more unbalanced, but it's just making sure that like when you are using the tree, that it's specializing your character more towards what the bonuses that your gear is giving you to kind of make the two things together like be sort of important to be thinking about both. So that was kind of our primary goal, but I don't know if you've got a different feeling about any of that.
It certainly wasn't like the passive tree being weaker. Like I guess we didn't really even think about it in the point of comparison. We just kind of like went back then. We went really back to the basics and evaluating a lot of our base balance, and so it wasn't like let's nerf it compared to PoE 1. It was more just like what do we want gear to do? What do we want the passive tree to do? What do we want? And all of that at the end of the day is just relative to then how do we want the monsters to scale and how which they're all different, right? The way that the monster scale per level isn't the same. The way that the tree and thus the tree benefits are different. The gear is different, and everything. So again, not really. It was conscious decisions, but not conscious decisions to like nerf from PoE 1 or anything of that sort. That being said, yes, I mean couple other things. I mean, we made, for example, the decision that like we wanted the class starts on the tree to be weaker than the exterior. So generally the nodes are meant to go up a little bit in power as you get further away, so you don't just get the like class hopping kind of thing that historically occurred in PoE 1 quite a bit.
The class starts were stronger than
you get
stuff,
the M on the top and stuff like that. And so that was a decision we made. But yeah, I mean, I guess we did kind of have like, we want gear to be more important, especially base gear. I think we maybe overcooked it a little bit right now, but just a little bit with, well, more the ease of it, the ease of getting it, but that's a whole crafting discussion, I guess.
Talk about that too.
More of an in-game problem. But yeah, no, I would say, I mean, I'm personally pretty happy, honestly, with how it is.
Just that like ratio of importance of gear compared to passive. I guess like it's a question of how much power do you get for free, right? Like ultimately that's what it comes down to, is like if I'm wearing all white gear, like how powerful is my character from just the tree? And that's like a little bit lower, I think, in PoE 2.
And the reason for that
bothers some people, I guess.
The reason for that specifically is because the tree is more multiplicative than it was in PoE 1, where there was more just base stuff, there. I mean, you can look at it even in simple things like, just life on the tree, for example, right? Like that's sort of another example of part of the thinking there is like, like the more base stuff is available on the tree, the more the same characters can be because they can just allocate the same stuff and get the same stuff without having to worry about the items. So yeah, that's kind of
obviously
just one of the things.
not entirely base in PoE 1, but because you have base life. As in life without gear.
Yeah. And where are you at on the life thing? Just like since you brought it up, I guess like still pretty happy with the decision to like remove that from the tree.
I mean, look, we just wanted to. We just didn't. It's more that decision's mostly about not wanting every character just another one of those cases of every character being the same.
Yeah.
Like it's like we'd rather you specialized in the defense that relates to your character rather than just the same stat that every character should use. So
true, but then you need to have life be as good as ES.
Obviously, still work to do.
And evasion, right? Like as good as. ES or armor as good as ES. Otherwise,
we added a lot of passives at some point that are a lot more powerful, and we intend to keep doing it. And now we've obviously just added all the druid ones, but not just that. Like we added more like ignite support on around the mercenary. For example, this time, like as in 040, we're doing that, and then there's some changes to like more prod speedy stuff because like we were like looking at shotguns and trying to see how can we have them scale, and it's like, well, it turns out if you get a bunch of piercing with prod speed and some other stuff, like you can shoot them across the screen, and so like, well, how do you get that? There's not many, so we're doing a bunch of like little increments like that just based on what builds need. I know bleed needs a bit more love in the bottom right, and so to make it not just entirely all blood mage spear users and that kind of thing going on. So again, it's gonna just honestly, we'll just do more and more and more and more and more on the tree. I suspect you'll get more. I'm not saying I'm going to increase the value of every node, but just by the nature of how many more things you can invest in and multiplicative elements, you're probably going to end up with a lot more power coming from the tree than what you do right now. But I actually prefer it doing it that way than just increasing all the numbers anyway.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if we then increase all the numbers and then it turns out the game is like too easy, well, then you have to nerf something somewhere or just buff monsters, and then you kind of end up in kind of the same place. So it's like, what did you actually achieve?
So with the like approach to life then, which I feel like makes sense, like not wanting the trees to like look the same and whatnot, how do you feel about like why does ES kind of get a separate treatment when it ultimately, although it's a defense like evasion and armor, it functions much more like life? There's a lot of ES scaling, and ES numbers are pretty high compared to life, and definitely
I mean, that's a current balance issue for sure, but like, you know, just because it happens to function more similar to life, they're all at the end of the day a form of effective HP, right? So, I mean, they just, as long as they're not entirely symmetric, which is what makes them interesting, which is why one works this way and the others work a different way. And but yeah, I mean, there's clearly a misbalance. I mean, you got issues with Ghost Dance obviously being a bit hectic, and
I guess
gonna
like,
start listing off things I'm gonna nerf, I suppose. But you know, like I don't know. There's changes to be done here. There's a few changes coming, but we're at the point where I still look at it and I'm like, I'm pretty sure ES is still going to be pretty crazy. That being said, it's like, you know, I don't want to make any last minute kind of knee-jerk reaction nerf kind of things around this. So like, because we've changed and rebalanced so much, it's really hard to know, and even changes to how the monsters scale and whatnot, it's kind of hard to know exactly how things are going to play out. So it's this kind of thing where I'm like at the point again where I'm like, all right, let's get all these changes out, see how the metas evolve, see what's good, see what's bad, and then like reevaluate it again. So ES is worse, but I don't think it's honestly, I don't think it's nerfed enough, to be honest. Is kind of where I'm at with that. So, but we'll see. We'll see.
Little nudge in the right direction, perhaps. But I know in the past when we talked about this, we discussed around the idea of like letting energy shield values be high, but really focusing on the recovery side of things and making that the, like you just said, like making things not homogenous, making things different. Like life's really easy to recover, but energy shield's much harder to recover. Like you still kind of.
That is still the intention, yes. That is still the intention.
I like that.
It's just really easy for all of a sudden some cool design to come out, and then all of a sudden it's just a completely trampled recharge.
Yes.
And then it's just like, well, now why do I care, you know? And I mean, like, it's okay sometimes if it's like via an insanely, like, I mean, Essentia Sanguis is a perfect example of doing this, right? Like, it just straight up ES leech. And the thing is, like, I don't want to take that away. I just, you know, there's a level of, there's some balance to do and or commonality to do. Like, if that's a thing you strive for and can eventually achieve, and now your character's like freaking god tier, that's exactly what like high-end unique items should do. So in this case, you know, I know we're making that item rarer. Hopefully that doesn't affect the economy too much with some me giving that away. But on standard, sorry. But at the end of the day, I would rather do that than just gutting it. You know what I mean? In this case. But yes, those things are allowed to break the rule. But I very much want to push ES to be recharge based. And as I said, yeah, historically, it's again, you just come up with a bunch of uniques and want to do all this cool stuff, and all of a sudden, oh, we've added in another way to completely not care about recharge, and you're getting ES back some other way. So and that happened and more and more and more of that came about, and all of a sudden now, yeah, you've pretty much just got this insane life pool that's permanently full, and it's like, wow, why would you not do this? Obviously you'd do this. So
I imagine there's a lot of incomplete picture going on here as well, where still missing classes and archetypes and skills and parts of the passive tree and thing as well. It probably makes it hard to like commit too hard to certain areas of balance when it's such an incomplete picture.
Yes, and it's also just honestly a time issue. We're adding all this new stuff while having to also correct all the existing stuff.
I do think that
And
life
the new
leech
stuff
is
like how fast can
lacking
the
a
new
little bit
stuff
for the bottom half of the
break
tree.
existing stuff, and how fast can we then fix that? And so it's you know, when I say break, I mean balance break. You know, it's to the point where it's like all these new variables are being added as we're trying to fix all the existing variables and balance them, and these new variables are like, you know, it can be hard, like real difficult. When you're at the point where you're not adding so much new stuff, you can just catch up, get to a point of stability, and for sure it's there. But like we have expanded. Like I've got 3 new people. I don't know if new. I've kind of taken a few people that were more balance oriented out of our QA. I mean, some of our QA people are kind of elite. You know, I don't know if I should say who they are, but some of them are off, you know, top hardcore ladders and stuff. And I'm like, well,
Cool.
look, they do know what's going on. I'm like trying to teach them the philosophies and how to do all this stuff. And so I've got 3 new people doing that. So hopefully, and historically we've had quite a limited number of people actually doing balance. It's quite hard. It's actually one of the harder things to have a good
And it
feel
does
for.
take a
If you
good
put the
player
wrong
that
person in
has a lot of
position,
understanding of the
who
game
knows where you'll
to
end up.
balance.
So it's really important.
It can't just
to make
be
sure that
someone
obviously these
who's-
people understand the philosophies and trained
Yes.
well, and you know you're being cautious with it. But yeah, I got 3 new people with that, so much larger team in the future. So I'm hoping we can tackle a lot more, and we're not just going to be up to like 1 or 2 of us. I mean, historically it's been pretty much me and Andrew, and that's it.
So you've got your elite squad. You're building your elite squad of balanced ninjas now. To
Pretty much, yeah.
and
And
shield.
I mean, if we end up with like 5 of us, it's a very, very. Considering I also have to do the leagues and the end game and the monsters and the bosses and oversee all of that. It's pretty hard to also be able to find a lot of time to sit there with the spreadsheets and with the game and going, what does this build do? What can it do? So getting more people there is going to be a game changer for the future in terms of
Oh, that's
you
a
know,
good
what we're
news.
able to actually balance, and we probably will be able to do a new class and keep the game up to date in a much better way and keep iterating on this, because we've got a lot more work to do. Like, I don't want people to ever think that we're just like going to stop with this stuff. I mean, PoE 1 hasn't stopped after forever, and often you want to keep metas fresh. You want to update. You want to make new. There's always you make bad things good, good things bad. Well, you know, bring them in. Not, you know, whatever.
You want to make good things bad, quote of all time.
Yeah, I was like, maybe not that. But the
Oh
you
shit!
know,
What
it's
should
been
you
a pretty
say?
tight resource the whole time, and yeah, having more of that is going to honestly be a game changer. So I am very keen to see how that's going to play out, you know, especially over the next few expansions, and see where that goes and what it allows us to do, and have less of that picking our battles, and let's fight more battles, you know. That's fine, which yeah, should be cool.
Cool. On the gear power level side of things, plus to all skills has been talked about a lot, and even you guys have mentioned in the past, like it exacerbated things like mana issues that people were having. It's obviously very powerful and available in very high quantities, and I think it exacerbates other issues like uniques being less viable because they don't have them, for example.
Right.
And it does seem to be of a power level that's like overriding other aspects of gearing. Like it becomes kind of a make or break stat in many cases. Where are you guys at with feeling on the plus skills issue?
Well, the original theory behind it was that we wanted to make sure, like for fizz weapons, you always had this like IPD, you know, increased physical damage that was always kind of effectively mandatory stat on those weapons, and you know, it was something where like you would like you sort of had this baseline of like, you know, some kind of multiplicative way to make the weapon better, and effectively plus skills on staves and wands was supposed to kind of fill that sort of same multiplicative approach, where like that was a thing that you, to make the difference between a bad spellcast weapon and a good one. That was kind of the idea, to kind of try and get that to so the items mattered more for spellcast weapons. But I think maybe like there's just kind of like, we probably need to have to look at it, but I'm sure Mark, you've got more theories about it.
I mean, we need to change something.
Right.
100%. I mean, I know this, like, you know, we obviously have the illegal mod, the old Essence of Sorcery, giving that extra +1 to focus, the +3 to focus foci, and the old homogenizing for getting the +3s on amulets. By the way, they're gone.
No!
By homogenizing.
I was ready for that one.
They were
No!
illegal for other reasons.
Don't know how people are going to feel about that. I'm not sure I should
No.
look at the chat over there and see if it's a W or an L, but whatever, they're gone. It was adding an insane amount of complexity to crafting. And, but anyway,
I particularly,
It was so simple and
I
easy.
particularly was like, I actually don't like crafting mechanics that cause you to have to think about mods in the exact way that they needed you to think about them. So, you know,
How do you
like,
mean?
well, it's a bit tricky. I mean, it's like a whole other conversation probably.
Yeah.
But yeah, like they I don't think that that they were quite right for PoE 2. So yeah.
But anyway, that's kind of off the
Yeah,
point.
yeah,
I
yeah,
just randomly just started talking about stuff I.
We'll talk more on the
Like,
cast
it's real
in a
easy to
minute,
just
yeah.
pivot to start listing nerfs and things you're removing for some
Yeah, yeah.
reason.
Calm down.
Sorry, but
That's an L,
yeah, there is an
man.
issue. I understand it. I understand the whole. I have this perfect wand, but I've got triple T1 prefixes, but I don't have the gem level, so throw it on the floor, right? I mean, that's kind of generally it. It's like if it's missing that mod, it's trash, right? That's the bad feel. It's like I did everything right except for that, and it's terrible. And yet we were trying to create a thing where it was like similar to, well, like, how do you itemize as a attacker?
Right.
And it was like, how can we have it be not just identical on a caster, but kind of have the same level of complexity of how to get
And in
that
particular,
power.
that still have the same level of an item actually matters, right? Because traditionally in PoE 1, you had this thing where, if you didn't want to have to worry about itemization very much, then,
Play
like
Spellcaster.
Spellcaster was the thing you could do.
That was the
And
thing.
we kind of did want to still try to like have it so that, items do matter on Spellcasters as well.
So,
Yeah.
so why then does it seem like for a lot of people it doesn't work? Like, because IPD doesn't seem to attract ire.
Yeah, I don't fully
but
understand
cost
that. I think
gems
the mana
does.
cost thing might be part of it for sure,
Sure,
the increase in
yeah.
the mana cost. But
I mean, I suspect at the end of the day, it's because there are multiple ways to create an attack weapon that are good.
right.
Even it's more than one way. A
because you can-
fizz weapon is not the
yeah.
only way.
Right.
Whereas a caster weapon doesn't really have that.
Homie, I'm not even gonna front.
And
I'm
it's just-
literally gonna
if
go
you don't
buy
have that
some.
mod, bad. If you do have that mod, it's fine. And that's
Right
it. It
now.
doesn't matter what the rest is necessarily doing. There's not really much other choice.
Right.
And so that honestly can be enough. Where it's like you instead of reducing the plus gems, you could create many different options, and maybe it's still fine. Like plus gems is one way, or there's this way, or there's this way, and that way it's like, yeah, sure, there's more opportunities. But yeah, right now it's just either good or bad, very binary. And
It is quite hard to think of multiplicative ways to improve spell damage, though. Like that was a real challenge when we were even looking into that. If I recall.
It's weird to me that like added damage on a caster gear isn't doing that more. Like, and maybe it's because like so much of that's already available in the game through other means or something. I don't know, like, because that is effectively added flat damage in the same way that
Yes.
plus gems is.
added flat damage on caster gear doesn't exist.
Extra damages, I should say.
Extra damage is there.
Yeah.
Added damage we removed because
What the fuck
you just ended up
happened?
doing a damage effectiveness.
It's because I started the game. It went all
Then every
bug.
single
Bucky ducky.
skill
Yes,
to the point where it
we
ended
were.
up being.
Whoa.
I wasn't in love with damage effectiveness having to exist because I find it to be a
What
bit
the
confusing for people. Like I
fuck?
don't love that, and so I was kind of really hoping to avoid it. I did have this sort of feeling though back when we did that, of this inevitable, like we're probably gonna have to add it back again one day, and I'm not gonna like that. Because like it is a very useful tool, but yeah, I think it's just I think it kind of sucks as a thing personally. I'm just not a fan of
The
it.
damage is extra.
It's another take on that
I
whole
mean, that's well.
idea.
We've done. I was just thinking of another change we've done here. So obviously, I'm pivoting a little bit, but it's still talking about caster weapons. So we'll say it's related. But in 040 we are doing a change where, even though we're not changing the plus spell so much, we are making it so that you can't essence +3 spells on the foci, which I said before. Just to be clear, that is a change. But the other thing we're doing is we're taking the it's the runic and glyphic equivalent of spell damage on foci and for all the different damage types, and just saying they can't generate on foci now. And I think we're in the end game, we're then increasing the base energy shields a little bit. It doesn't. I know people, oh my god, you're making energy shield better. Don't worry, it makes like no real difference overall with the other changes in mind. But the idea is being that a wand and a foci should be slightly more defensively enhanced, not offensive compared to a staff. And so one thing we've done is we said all staff prefixes. So that's the damage is fire, the element damages the types. It's the just increased specific damage, increased spell damage. What is it? Mana. I don't remember what
Oh,
else.
so
The
laggy.
prefixes. Those are all
Oh.
now double wands as opposed to, I think it was 50 to 55% higher than wands, give or take. So, and then so if you want,
Damn, they went up in price.
like it just adds more reason to want to use a staff. So the staff prefixes are
God damn.
double wands, whereas a wand plus foci is not giving
Shit.
you. Well, it was
That sucks.
pretty much giving you more damage. I actually think it was
Right.
than
Yeah.
a staff
Oh my god,
would have been able
stop
to.
lagging.
So at least now staffs are going to be better.
Right.
But that isn't anything
Fuck,
to do with
that's
the game level
annoying.
problem. It's still obviously its own problem. You know, but it's again just talking about a little bit of the like overall improvements to just like finding different types of gear where it's like, well, why do I want the staff when I can have a wand and a
I mean, you
focus
actually
every
made a
time?
ton of changes to just weapons, like generally, right? Like in terms of the progressions and stuff, especially through the campaign.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when we were adding the talismans for the druid, we were like, what do we want all the in-game base types to be? What do we want the damage in the campaign? And what we then started looking into was a lot of the other weapons going, well, what were they doing? And then I was looking at things going, well, this doesn't seem right here, and this doesn't seem right there. And you get these weird things which people probably don't honestly appreciate, maybe, where it's like you're upgrading your weapon, so you're going from like random examples. I don't know. I don't actually know if this is true. I'm just gonna hypothetically. It's like you go from two-handed mace to 3 to two-handed mace 4. You know, you're going along the, I don't know what the actual names are, and then all of a sudden, like two-handed mace 5, it's got some implicit on it, and it's like, oh, that's interesting. But the damage is actually, the base DPS of that weapon is actually lower than the one
Yes.
before it. That was like
Yeah.
6 levels lower. And
There
you're
are a few
like,
cases of that.
I don't know if that damage is worth the trade-off of the implicit. And so
Definitely, it isn't worth it.
it isn't, yes. The valuation of the implicit's damage penalty was mismatched in a lot of spots. And so you get these things where every third weapon in the campaign is just like a random DPS drop. And so we're changing all of that as much as we can, at least.
The thing is, you might not even necessarily recognize this as a player, because generally speaking, you just like, you see a weapon that dropped and you're like, okay, what's the DPS of this compared to another one? You're not necessarily thinking about the fact that there's a new upgraded weapon type, or that's like, or that should have been higher. So what it ends up being is there's just a hole of like 20 levels go by where it's like, I can't get a weapon upgrade, and it's
Yeah.
frustrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what it actually feels like when you actually play it. But in reality, what it was is that the weapon type that was supposed to be an upgrade is actually a downgrade. That's something that Mark immediately we saw it. He was
We've
like,
done
okay,
it.
we need to
We're
do
doing a
something
little
about
bit more. I don't know if we're going to
Yeah.
get through all the weapons, but we're
Right, right.
trying. Whereas, like, you get to end game and it's like, okay, what's your fast weapon? What's your crit weapon? What's your just standard good weapon? And then
Right.
here's implicit A, implicit B, implicit C, you know. And then it's like, which one's your bonk weapon? Like, which one am I just going to bonk things with the slow, heavy hitter? And trying to just do a lot more of that and make sure there's all the in-game choices for all of these weapons, bunch of different cool implicits, changing some of them around, just reevaluating the damage of them all, just the base DP. So, generally speaking, pretty much all of them going up across the board in little ways. Like, they're not nothing make or break, but like, it's enough of a thing that as you're going through the campaign, you're not just like, where the heck are my upgrades? And also at the end game, just increasing a bit of the choices of different base weapons you could use for different builds and whatnot. So, yeah, it's kind of one of those things that, you know, it's easy to go a little bit underappreciated, but, you know, it matters, like in changing the staffs and all of that stuff. It does, you know, contribute to the overall picture of just things feeling good. And, you know, it's another one of these things where it's like, yeah, we just in the process of adding the druid weapons, we were like, well, let's go do the rest of this right as well while we're at it. So, yeah, we've still got a bit more to do there, but I don't know if that will come in this, you know, week to come and or as opposed to afterwards or something like that. But
Yeah.
we're just going to try and do as much as we can. So even if not all the weapon types are in the patch notes, it isn't to say we aren't going to do the rest of them before the end of next week, because it doesn't take too long to do them. But you know, at the same time, you don't want to rush it and mess it up. So yeah, I don't know, just a random thing.
I think people are increasingly souring on rarity and gear, especially now that it affects currency drops, and which makes it feel very mandatory, right? Because like, what do we play for? Currency, obviously.
Well, don't you worry. We've had our, you know, every 3 months discussion of talking about rarity and what we're going to do with
Well, I
it.
think we nerfed it again, didn't we?
We did a little bit. We cut off some of the top tier mods, so just the overall amount of it is lower. It's a stopgap. I don't quite know. We haven't come to an exact decision, but like, it is true that it feels like every change we're making at this point is getting slightly closer to just it despawning.
Keep having those
will,
meetings then.
I will get rid of it eventually. It's just that we need to find we need to find the mods that can replace it in the mod pools that like in order to make it work. And it's like, this is the annoying thing. Is it's like if we just removed it right now, there just wouldn't be enough of a mod, like the mod pools wouldn't work.
There is an interesting thing we see where and I don't like for sure it is understandable, but we see a lot of videos being made with just absolute 1000% misunderstandings of how it all works. And which probably isn't helping its cause in any way, because it has all these hidden DR things and just a bunch of hidden mechanics in it. But yeah, there's certainly a mass amount of misunderstanding as to how it works, and people going, look, it does exactly this change, and it's like, it's not even doing 1/10 of what you're saying it's doing. That being said, I'm not saying it's not a problem. It is 100% a problem, but there is certainly a mass misunderstanding with, again, because we don't even explain it anywhere. It's just this hidden, there's some formula somewhere, you know, that no one has access to, except for us.
And you've always been a bit secretive on drop-related stuff in particular, and like, you guys kind of happy to keep it that way for that one, or is it something you're like, misinformation?
We wanted to make it clear. We wanted. Okay. We were like, why don't we just get rid of the DR and find a way to make it work and actually display the actual value? But that is at conflict of removing it, so you know there's a little bit of like
DR is the drop rate, not
it's also it's inherently
damage reduction.
Unclear even to us in some sense. Like, we can't say like the number of the like what okay, but that sounds a bit weird. But what I mean by that is like, it's not like that when you get that it just increases currency. Like, it's through like 10 layers of like different ways things work that kind of result in an overall amount, like overall in currency increasing.
You mean like the content people are playing and stuff?
Well, not just that, but even in terms of just the way the system works, right? Like, it's a very indirect method by which currency is increased. It isn't just that we just drop. It's not just like there's some code somewhere where it's like increase currency by this amount. Like, it is actually like it is a result of multiple systems on top of each other working to result in that, and that's why like the only way for us to even know like what it even does is by simulating actual drops from actual monsters in order to work out what it actually did. So yeah, it's like sort of, yeah, I understand that might seem strange, but it's because like the drops are complicated. And there's like so many things we've done over the years to kind of like massage them in various ways, and it's like it becomes quite unclear at some point, even like what the relationship between one number and another can even be. I
think the takeaway is Jonathan said he's removing it.
I want to get rid of it. We just need to find a thing to replace it with in the mod pool.
Like, that's very
it's
okay. I don't need to understand it.
It's exactly the same conversation if we bring up what Dex gives as a it's like it's 100% the same type of problem.
So what should Dex give?
What do we make Dex give rarity?
Yeah, exactly.
Dex scales currency drops.
Yeah, exactly.
But through several layers of abstraction.
And gold find if you're a wyvern.
Only if you're a wyvern.
Yeah, just for dragons.
Makes sense.
Sure.
Oh, no. Okay. On the topic of balance for damage types and damage scaling, lightning damage seems like a clear-cut winner at the moment overall. In terms of doing more raw damage, having access to shock, and even having its own kind of version of stun through electrocute, and I guess separate problems with, like, for example, fire and ignite. Where are you guys at with like the balance between the elements and
I'm not going to say that they're now equal, but like a few things. So I mean, I know there was like a 15% more max damage notable. That's now 10. We've done, I think, all of the skills that had multiplicative shock effect are now increased, so they stack additively with the tree. So, you know, it's honestly just like a whole bunch of different little things. Lightning rods are nerfed at endgame, just while we're here. Don't worry, lots of things are buffed that aren't
Tons of things
that aren't lightning builds necessarily.
Nice.
But no, some are as well. But yeah, it's. I don't want to just make it about let's gut lightning. I want to make it be like, well, let's make these other things feel more special. So it would be very easy to just go and gut lightning across the board. But that just seems like an overall net loss of fun.
Yeah.
I'd much rather
they need to bring everything
find
else
ways
up.
to incentivize the others as opposed to just take away the thing that currently is
correct,
kind of enjoyable. So again, it's more important to not just nerf. Oh, now they're equal. So yeah, I won't say we're there yet, but the problem is obvious, so at least it's not.
And you don't really want things to be like the same power level ultimately. Like, it seems like, you know, one of them should be more damage, and one of them has like more utility, like cold with freeze and chill.
Well, for sure, like cold was
but ultimately people aren't going to accept if one element has more clear speed than another. So like, while it may not be damaged directly, it is in some indirect way it needs to translate to damage on some level. I mean, because, you need to, it needs to, or rather it needs to indirectly translate into clear speed in some manner, right? So that's
unless you're making the monsters 40% stronger.
Well,
and
but
they
that's
are
what I mean, right?
sticking
Because
around, and then you're freezing them.
Yeah, but I mean, because we're doing that, it means that it ultimately means that the higher damage, smaller AOE, like not having to actually rely on arcing all the time to be able to get the massive AOE can kind of like make a difference. So even just that change alone can shift the meta like a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like fair amount of changes to like the passive tree scaling for lightning, stuff like that.
Yeah,
as well as some
shock. I mean,
specific
shock is pretty
changes.
hectic.
Yeah.
Kind of, you have this thing where it's like, okay, well, let's say even cold. Obviously, you can freeze more often, but then often the boss is sitting or the monsters are sitting in there. Then poise timer before they can be CC'd again. You don't have any real control over that. And chill, well, chill has a maximum magnitude of 50, so you can't really scale. So like already alone, you can 5x the power of a shock, because I think the cap is 100, and in some cases, Stormweaver even go further than that. Whereas you can't exactly be doubling the power of a chill necessarily, and so on. So there's like, even just that as a random thing, like Ignite doesn't have enough love right now for sure. So even if it was meant to be those three ailments are a point of comparison, I mean, Shock is kind of a little bit crazy right now compared to what the others are capable of doing. Not to say Chill isn't strong, not to say Freeze isn't also obviously powerful.
It's just
they
not
have their time, and they may have already had their. I mean, we had freaking cast on a Comet on crit for a while there, and all of that as well. So, it will always change. But yeah, I mean, just bringing some of the shock back and some of the other just little outliers here and there was a first step in the direction. But it's very important not to just do I hate lightning, goodbye lightning. It's like it'd be easy to do. It's the wrong thing to do for sure. So.
Yeah, people also like playing lightning. I think it's just,
exactly.
I think it's just the feeling when they're like playing their cold builds and like it's better to convert to lightning. That's why I think that's when it becomes more problematic. You kind of mentioned you touched on the fact that you feel like Ignite needs some love. I feel like with damaging elements, there's a fundamental thing maybe that's causing problems where it's scaling with like hit damage and crit so directly, I guess, in this case, differently to how it's been done in the past, where it leads to maybe, in addition to it being a bit weaker, feeling like just kind of an add-on, like Ignite's not really a thing. I don't really have a pure Ignite build. Ignite's just like a bonus added kind of damage on top.
Yeah,
of like
it's a bit flat, honestly. I agree. We've had heaps of discussions here about all kinds of different options. We had some boil down to whether or not we're going to do keystones. We want to do something. We just haven't landed on exactly what we want it to be and how. Whether or not it's like we change the base versus change it through again a keystone or something you spec into. But yeah, it is a bit flat, and it doesn't have enough. I mean, well, yeah, it is as you said. It's just here's a bit more DPS, I guess, at the end of the day. And then even there's limited ways of kind of scaling it, and I'm not going to say there's none. There are some, but it's not enough. It's yeah. I mean, overall, I'd say it just hasn't got enough love. So, but we want to.
Backtracking a little bit on the gearing, we touched on crafting a little bit, and so I love 0-3 crafting. Like, it was such a huge change from like a game that some would joke didn't have crafting into some of the most powerful and interesting crafting we've had ever in Path of Exile. I think like it's right up there. 0-3 crafting was amazing. Like the combination of the core currency changes, the changes to essences was really good, and how these things interplay with some of the omens and the abyss crafting even. So like definitely felt like some things were a bit illegal, and just the overall like how good it was. Like oh no, I feel like this is illegal. So what of that was illegal or is illegal or is being?
Well, you said essences. So we talked about essence of sorcery.
It's not like we're gutting anything like that, right? There's just a few illegal things.
It's a few.
Are you pretty like you like overall like where it ended up?
I mean, I think it's way better than it was before. Like 100%.
Right.
Yeah.
It's what I found playing, and obviously and collating a little bit of data, but it's the kind of thing where I don't have enough data to go and or enough feedback to go and make some sweeping changes. That people find that getting the it's too easy now to get to the absolute upper echelons of gear. Is what I kind of honestly, and I assumed that there'd be a bit of a public civil war about me saying that, because I could see people going, no, that I love it that way, and a bunch of people going like, well, I'm completing my characters way too fast. right? I got nowhere to go. I got no, I want to play for longer, and I have nothing to spend my time
Play
doing.
another
Like, it's
character.
done. My character's finished.
What the fuck?
And I could see people being very binary on that for sure. But then it's like, how much of that just comes down to homogenizing, for example, and a few different axes like that.
I think a fair amount.
And but yeah, I know there's other problems, like for example, because of the high tier currency, there's a little bit of like you don't even need to pick up tier 5 rares anymore, because what you actually want is a base type to craft from. And so in some ways it's wrong in that regard, for sure. Like if people feel that way, that's probably not good. Yeah, and then there was some other things with the essences that went wrong, like for example the essence of haste, being able to craft melee tiers of attack speed onto bows. It's not alright, right? That's better than what a bow can even yield. So like now a dropped bow can never be the best thing in the game because there's an essence that can go in high value. That's not intentional. Like the essences should be good, but they shouldn't be giving illegal mods, as we keep saying. So yeah, it's a bit of that, but I would hate to. I want to see how it goes, but I definitely feel the thing that like definitely hit me the most that I want to get more feedback on is the people just going, it's not you. There's no point in picking up T5 rares eventually because it, I would rather just craft from a white base and I can more guarantee that it's going to be good. And so what's the point? But yeah, there's a bit of that. And so, but again, it's very important with these kinds of things not to just like, yeah, that's obviously right, let's just change everything and now item gearing is just ruined, because you could very easily undo with a lot of the good that 030's crafting added. So yeah, fine-tooth comb, being very careful with it, for sure.
So it sounds like definitely getting rid of a few specific things. Omen of homogenization was a pretty clear one. I think that was like seemed hyper illegal, as well as like some of the specific essences. Like the tiered currencies, you feel like you're pretty happy with that overall?
I think overall I like them. Yeah.
Okay, cool. And like the essence changes in general.
Yeah, for sure.
And what about abyss crafting? Now that that's going core, is that like changing a lot? Because that I think played a pretty important role in giving you some interesting decision making in crafting.
It's not changing very much aside from the removal of waystone crafting from it.
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be a few number of changes around.
Yeah, just little bits here and there. Yeah. Well, I mean, inherently we have to, because we buffed staff prefixes, we have to go and look at everywhere that adds equivalent mod and make sure those are increased as well. And so, like, either way, there's some, some overflow effects that just kind of happen due to balance changes all over the place. But nothing like no significant change to that at this point, for sure. But it's still there. When you're playing through, even though it's core, when you're playing through the campaign, much like you get the world map icons, or it's like, oh, there's things here. We've got a bunch of areas where there are abysses. I think it's 6, and each gives throughout the entire campaign. Each will give a crafting thing, so you have at least 6 guaranteed campaign crafts.
Oh, great, awesome.
If you explore and do the areas, and you can see it on your world map if you've done it or not, and so you're giving you a bit of that throughout. So we don't lose that the league had, and then in game. Sure, use your tablets and then start running it, and
awesome.
You want to get the crafting,
Well, I'm amped to hear that like overall it seems to be fairly intact then, because I was definitely a huge fan of like the direction crafting's taking there. So, and I'm excited to see it getting built upon with like the Sacrifice of Vaal stuff too. Well, the new Vaal stuff. Excellent news. Alongside that, we had the addition of asynchronous trade, and both things obviously very powerful for gear acquisition, raising both like the kind of floor of like what's considered your like baseline gear. What's your 1 exalt gear basically goes up a lot, but also like getting it more accessible to get to like to craft or to obtain the really high end gear. How much of an effect have you seen in terms of like players kind of making the game easier? Like, has the game gotten a lot easier overall for people? Are people like reaching their final product earlier?
It's really hard to tell how much of it is the trade system and how much of it is the crafting changes. Like, it's actually really quite hard to disentangle.
So what about as an overall picture?
Yeah, I mean, look, but at the end of the day, it's like the crafting system the trading system as it is something people just need to have. So, like, we just have to, work within that.
I'll tell you, like, if we have a end-game itemization problem, we're not going to go and say we need to nerf trading.
Good.
Right.
We're past that. We're fine. We can put that in our review.
Yes.
Excellent.
I would say so. The
like,
trading
how
system
long
right now
is
is
that?
pretty much
curious,
as perfect
like,
as it gets.
How extreme it has been, because it seems like it would be absolutely massive, like crazy. But
it's honestly quite hard to tell, as I said, due to the other changes.
I guess it's like a longer period thing to
But then at the end of the
analyze.
day as well, you could say that if this is a feature we need to have, then it doesn't necessarily matter. Like, we just need to work with it and just deal with it. So you know.
I know in the past there was a fear, and this kind of touches on crafting a lot, where if people could craft like really good gear super easily, that they would stop playing. Like the player retention would go down. I feel like in some cases we've seen some of the opposite phenomena. Like there is, to an extent, the opposite phenomena where like people gain access to the builds they want to play, they gain access to content they might not have otherwise in a more reasonable time frame for them. So their engagement and the amount of time they play ends up going up as a result, like in a surprising twist.
That definitely can happen, but at the end of the day, like, retention isn't exactly the reason why we do it. It's because we sort of feel like, you know, like if we did want to make getting the hardest gear harder, then the reason we would be doing it is because we don't like the feeling that you can get of like, I don't have anything else to get. You know what I mean? Like, that would be the reason to do it, not necessarily because of retention reasons. You know what I mean? Like, it's more about the play experience, to be honest. Because, you know, when it comes right down to it, like, our model has always been, we want to keep you coming back every league. Like, we don't necessarily care how long you play a given league for. We just want to make sure that each time you play a league, you're enjoying your experience, that you want to come back and play the next one. So, you know, that's kind of our philosophy on that. So, you know, retention isn't directly a thing that we're like optimizing for exactly in that way.
Players hyper-fixate on that.
Yeah, it's more about retention from league to league. Like, what are we doing? You know, like, how many players do we get back for the next league, as opposed to how many players do we get back the next day?
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess because we have like Steam charts, we get hyper-fixated on retention numbers.
I mean, it's not like it doesn't matter either, right? Because you can, on some level, judge the success of how much people like the league based on that.
Yeah, it can tell you how much fun people are.
But, yeah, like, at the end of the day, what people are saying about what they thought about it is actually more important than the number of people actually playing it, because, like, that, you know, as long as they're, like, happy and they want to come back, you know, then we're happy.
Mean, if you have more fun in a smaller amount of time and then you're more happy to come back next league, then that's a win.
That isn't necessarily a problem, right?
We may have played less this league, but maybe...
So they're kind of a little bit unrelated in some ways, but also sort of related in others, you know.
Okay, well, it'd be interesting to see how this continues to play out then, the crafting, trading thing. I'm super interested in, like, the economic aspects of that.
Right.
But it's definitely had a big impact, and on the whole, like, 0.3 felt like a huge net positive for both crafting and trading.
Agreed.
So good. Yep. So good.
It felt good to play. It was something you wanted to keep playing, playing. So I feel like that was especially due to the trading and crafting.
Can we scroll to the end? Thanks.
Like, the Abyss was cool and all, but I had just played Abyss for a full league, so it wasn't like that was the thing that was keeping
one
me.
in chat, but it's not really a question. People just typing move speed, but I don't really actually know what the context for that is. You guys know?
It's the speed at which you move.
Very insightful. Thank you. Maybe you guys could type an actual question in chat. I'm just saying instead of just chanting. But
well, I mean, adjacent to that, one change we have made, which is kind of interesting, and I think it's a kind of, I don't know if the general desire is more or less of it. I suspect you'll find a bit of both. But irrelevant of that, like, a change we made is there's lots of in-game runes where you can now only use one of them, and it's quite interesting because obviously before it was like, get the double socketable effect on boots, put all the removal speed runes in, and it's like, well, great, now you got. And you know, it's kind of interesting, but it also meant that generally what was happening is every single slot was just stacked with the same rune type. So now you're getting this like kind of nice mixture of different runes being used and different things, and it's kind of enhancing that. But yes, it overall makes the amount of movement speed you're getting from boots lower at that end game. But those were like very, very, very expensive. So which is kind of cool. What else is not much else has really changed
kind
there.
Of like a rehashing of the old discussions of like the mandatory move speed on boots versus like implicits and things like that. I've always been a big fan of like a little bit of implicit movement speed on boots as you go up or something like that. But I know you guys are happy with like having move speed be an important stat on boots. Like, I guess, and maybe some people just want more move speed, but
I mean, some people always will.
That's a thing, yeah.
There's probably some people that want to move faster. It's just less. I think there's some people who might want to have a less mandatoriness to have to move so fast as well to some degree, but
I've been more on that side of things, like, you know, maybe make some of the maps a little smaller so move speed's less important, I feel. We don't like mandatory mod items on it was that topic. Okay, cool. Thanks team. Just confirming that. Yeah, I feel like that's been discussed fairly well at this point.
We're at the same stance on that, really. Which is, it's interesting because if we end up acknowledging that is wrong in the context of staffs and wands, then we might have to reevaluate why it's right in the context of movement speed. You know, it's an interesting thing where one discussion might yield the other, because it's kind of a similar problem in both contexts, and we might end up who knows what side of the fence we're going to land on, you know what I mean? So
I've seen Acolyte Chayula get mentioned a lot. I have not played that class, so I can't speak to it too closely, but is that one that is getting
we've done
some
number
love,
buffs
I
at the
think?
very least, yes.
Okay.
I think almost every ascendancy class has some level, like, honestly, some of it is like one node changed, some of it, like for example, Pathfinder's got 2 whole new notables, and like we got rid, I mean, Pathfinder just did that, we got rid of the poison spreading notable because it's pretty much Herald of Plague, and we just put the 4-pointer to the 2-pointer, so you get the actual more powerful spike one for cheaper. We got rid of that like multi-choice ailment mitigation, and we were like, wow, it's the Pathfinder, so let's do some cool passive tree stuff. So pulling some inspiration from the PoE1 Scion, the Pathfinder can now also allocate passives from either the Witch or the Warrior start points, you know, for just like, you know, doing some crazy builds. And I think there's even a new notable on there where normally you have your highway nodes and it's like 5 dex and strength. There's also now 3 other options for the Pathfinder can take that node, and now there's 6 choices you can do on your travel nodes. So it's like, oh, I don't want as much attributes, I'll get instead damage. I think it's damage, defenses, and like cost efficiency or something. So you can kind of like better balance how much damage you want, defenses you want, or reduce. So it's like another kind of cool, interesting thing. So yeah, I mean, that's a class where it's gotten a bit more changes. Acolyte is numerical for now. But again, we want to do something grander with Chaos. It's on
There's quite a lot of just
on our
monk
list.
generally improvements as well, just balance-wise, right?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, every class has kind of got
Been pretty
changes everywhere.
in the thick of it.
I think the patch note currently lacks. We have a thing where we're doing a bunch of changes to specific monsters for being spected.
Okay.
Like when we actually looked at it, we're like, look, if we just increase Spectre overall, it's going to increase the specific specters. Like we want to increase the amount of the pool of viable monsters for different cases.
Yeah.
So here's the thing, now it takes it from a skills balance team into the kind of monster balance team situation, and like so it's a different resource. So we're going to start doing that process where we try and do like, you know, 5 to 10 from here and here and here and here per patch, and kind of just start trying to get them to be more viable.
That's nice to hear.
Specters, and honestly, you'll find most of the time it's just changing the cooldowns and changing the AI to be like not, because normally they're just like, I have to care about a player, and maybe some minions are there, but honestly sometimes they just don't even care about the minions. They're just like, nah, there's a player, right? They assume there's a player, because generally speaking there is. And so now when they make a Spectre version, well, there's no player for them to target. There's, you know, only monsters, and so they might be just making some silly decisions about how they're targeting and when they're using their skills and stuff like that. So want to do a bunch of that, but those won't be in the patch notes because the intention's that we're still doing them. I don't want to release a half-baked set of patch notes for that. The other thing is, I think we're still doing, I've held back from the patch notes, I've held back a bunch of the minion occult, specifically a bunch of changes around command skills and stuff like that, just because I want to just do a little bit more iteration before we release that. Couple of Ice Ranger changes. I think that's like a massive improvement to the Ice Ranger kind of play. I mean, using the existing skills, a lot of numerics, a lot of changes to ice fragments, stuff like that. What else is not in there? There's a few other bits and pieces not in the patch notes, and that's because all of our stuff is, and that's just not to say there's nothing changed. I've just taken them out for now because I want to make sure they're right. Otherwise, we have to give some false information and then change it, and it's not great.
You've been updating the patch notes over the course of a week now, so people should still probably expect that.
Yeah, for sure.
Initial patch notes coming.
I know they were like, I mean, I think we ended up changing something like 80 different unique items or something like that.
Sick.
Again, mostly focusing on endgame ones, boss ones, mythic ones, working our way down the rarity. So like more of the ones that are meant to be higher value and meant to be higher effort. We've demoted some to be more common. We've promoted some to be rarer, stuff like that, and done a whole pass. But even then, like I know last night we were like, oh, there's like kind of 5 or 6 here that we're like maybe on the fence about. Let's, to be safe, pull them out, discuss them, reevaluate them, and then pull them back in the patch notes afterwards. Just to be safe, because again, I don't want to mislead people.
I saw a question about that from our resident summoner expert in chat. But the monster changes, like for making specific changes to monsters for specters, does that end up in patch notes? That seems like pretty hard to track.
It will this time.
Nice.
Well, I don't think we've done much in the way of actual specific monster changes
You
this time
ask
around.
my
But
question,
what I was
please,
talking about
fat
doing will,
fucking
yes.
dumbass. Okay.
It just what I'm saying is it won't be in the initial set of patch notes because.
Yeah.
Or
we
do I have
haven't,
to spam it like others? Like, I'm just being
finished
really
them.
fucking
So
respectful
they will
and
be,
asking.
I think the patch
once
note says
every
will be
30
in a post
minutes.
later this week, or later, in the week coming. So
A funny one in chat I see is like, when can we get more melee variety? I'm like, you guys literally just added like a new melee weapon. Like, I don't know if you guys know, but the talisman's a melee weapon.
no, melee is never right in any game ever. No, I mean,
like-
because it's kind of true, right? Like,
It is
There's a
kind of
phenomenon
true.
right now where
I'm
it's
not gonna
like,
lie. That is
whenever
kind
we
of
talk about melee,
just
people
how
say
it is.
that like there's literally only maces in the game, and it's like quarter staves are over in the corner crying. It's like no one pays any attention to it.
spears.
Yeah,
It's
but
spears,
it's-
it's just, like doesn't count as well.
But
It's like a half-ranged weapon, I
Storm
guess.
Wave really melee, then you get that.
There's always
so.
this funny exception with it, but like ultimately, I think what it comes down to is that the game doesn't have swords
Yes,
yet.
I know.
Is that
and I know we need swords. I get it.
we need swords.
We need
yeah.
swords.
So swords are.
It's funny.
From talking to you, it sounds like swords. Swords are getting added to the game at some point.
At some point, we will have swords. I can promise you that.
Yes, it's the importance is understood. It
Yeah, yeah.
seems it's
Yep.
a bit too fundamental, isn't it?
Yeah, yep, for
Swords
sure.
are a bit cool.
But yeah, I mean, we were talking about the SNSC. So yes, a lot of numerics, some more broader changes, some getting a little bit, some getting a lot. Like just because it's getting a little bit doesn't mean we think it's in the right spot. At the end of the day, we've just started going. Like Smith and Katava got a decent amount of changes.
Nice.
You know,
Nice.
kind of a lot better now, for sure. We nerfed it.
Nice.
But yeah, lots of like, around the. I mean, honestly, like I want to say 90% of all the balance changes are probably in the direction of taking underplayed and underpowerful things and making them a bit better.
Nice.
That isn't to say that we've successfully made, like maybe at the end of the day, lightning archers are still somehow better than ice archers at the end game, but certainly the gap is narrowed and you'll feel less bad for playing one over the other, and less bad about decisions, and so that's ultimately the goal, and we'll get there eventually, but yeah, huge step in the right direction, I'd say. But yeah, and then things like Outer Louis, you know, all those outliers on the top end, those are coming down a bit, for sure, sometimes more than a bit, depending how extreme they were. Culmination's another one where like just having an uncapped combo thing when you get damage per combo. I mean, obviously you can just one-shot everything in the game at that point, so that's a problem as well. You know, some of these outliers 100% brought into place given caps, whatever the case is, but again, more like 95% of all the changes that we're trying to make is bringing up the underplayed things to be a bit better, and just to all kinds of varying degrees. It's really hard to. It's like, do you just do everything across the board and try and look at everything and give everything a minute, or do you really hone in on one build? And right at this point, we're trying to do a very widespread. Let's look at literally every skill and go, is there a decision we can? What would we do? And it's like, it would require this huge rework. Okay, instead of waiting for that, can we just do some numbers for now? Do the rework later to really give it what it truly should be? If so, let's do that, and then bench that thing for a later time when we have more time, and then move to the next, do the same assessment, and then we just try to do that for literally everything.
The Balanced Ninja Squad is currently focusing on clear speed, it sounds like. Hey,
Yes, but for things that are not already, you know, up
Nice.
at the top tier, generally.
Great. We're getting quite close to patch notes, so we'll rapid fire some things off here. It seemed like at one point, like druids were going to have claws as their weapons, so that has obviously changed to talismans. Or
That might have
they
been
were
a
like
case a long
That
time
was
ago.
actually,
that was
that was
nodes or
actually for the
something.
huntress.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, weird. Yeah.
Come on,
it sounds like
man.
Claws are probably not.
Fucking
gonna be
ask.
then.
probably
Like,
not anytime soon. No.
Decided not less interesting than
Yeah,
other
yeah.
options. Yeah, alright, cool. Hot swapping between controller and mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, something I promise every single time,
So it's,
and yet somehow we still haven't done it yet. So what I can say is that it is actually, we have an implementation of it. We're not shipping it this time, but it's much more close than it was last time. Like, there's just some stuff that needs to happen, but like, you know, it is a thing that has been seen on a programmer's workstation as to work. But yeah, there's still a bit more to do. But yeah, like next time, I know I've said this twice before, but next time we will definitely have that. I know it's like it's a weirdly huger feature than it seems because like the code was just originally not written with that in mind at all, and you know, yeah, it's just requiring a lot of re-engineering of a whole bunch of existing UI to be able to get it to work.
Looking forward to it, so I can
I
do
know.
inventory management.
I know. We will have it, but yeah,
controller inventory. Oof.
Yeah.
No.
But yeah.
Okay, good news. It's being worked on daily. It sounds like. Do you have like a rough timeline for full release, or not ready to announce that yet?
Don't really have it to announce, but I mean, look, I certainly don't want it to be 2027. Like, I really want it to be next year. Like, I really do. So, you know, like it'll be. I really want it to be next year. But
we certainly underestimated the amount of work we wanted to. Certainly by having to make all the leagues constantly and all of that. And I know some people might be like, just don't. But like,
you need to do.
We want people to play the game still and enjoy it, and you know, do what we want to do. But so yeah, you get this thing where we severely underestimated how much extra time it would add.
Your rule of cool of like we want to do the 130 extra passives because it's cool. I mean that has an expense.
Yes, all of this does get in the way technically, but
I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're not going to release until everyone's happy. So,
that's a good fucking answer right there.
So, you know,
That's a fucking good answer.
With the performance improvements, which look like really impressive, even more than the 25% you were saying, like looking at the side-by-side footage is like, it looks even better than that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we did 25. I said 25% as a commitment because like that's kind of like I want to make sure, like, look, people are really sensitive to the stuff, so like I wanted to make sure that we're not over-promising.
Under-promise.
And so under-promise and over-deliver was the plan, but
27 Path of Exile 2027. 2077.
Effectively what we've done is, obviously there's just sort of traditional optimization that happens, but a lot of it is just effectively making sure we're multi-threading things better, taking advantage of more CPU cores. If you're GPU bound and you don't have dynamic resolution turned on, then it obviously won't affect you because you're GPU bound. If you've got dynamic resolution on, so you know like GPU is not so much of a concern, then CPU was definitely a problem for just about everyone. Like even really fast CPUs were having issues in in-game mapping. So the goal really was to make it so that, you know, like when you've got a lot of shit going on, that your CPU is not overloaded. We did that by multi-threading things much better than we were before. And, you know, just, traditional optimization, just lots of improvements there. So yeah, like now, there's so many things that are working better than they were before. Like in many cases, honestly, you see double frame rate, like just straight up. Awesome. But as I said, like not consistently in all cases. So and consoles,
bro, I'm gonna
are a huge improvement.
ban that question in a
consoles
second.
Just have weaker CPUs than PCs.
Are you kidding me?
So therefore, when you're doing CPU optimization, consoles are what's going to benefit from that. And yeah, it's just a lot better. Now, one of the things I'm a bit worried about is that by multi-threading more things, you can run into multi-threading bugs. And so there might be, hopefully not, but there might be some more crashing going on when we first launch, just because, like, you know, like the thing with multi-threading is that, like, depending on the exact scenario, different things can happen at different times. It can cause some issues. I'm really hoping we don't run into that. We're trying to do as much testing as we can to fix all those kinds of issues. Effectively, that would be the worry. But yeah, I think that it was definitely worth taking the plunge and doing that stuff because it is way better. I probably should make like a video on exactly like, you know, some of the, like go into a deep dive into it at some point because it's kind of interesting.
And even it feels like even still, occasionally you guys are still just finding
ridiculous
things that like, we just made it a whole nother chunk faster.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
Just because of some just ancient thing.
It's we definitely still find some crazy stuff, and yeah, like it's going to be a lot better.
I expect it's not even, it's just going to keep going as well.
Yeah, no, exactly. So that's the other thing is like I want to spend even more time on getting this exactly right. We're not even at the point like when I'm looking at it now, I'm like we could still theoretically make this quite a bit faster than it even still is.
You've been personally like really on this every time.
I have. Just because it's been such a big issue, and you know, like I want to get back in there and spend a bit of time on it. And yeah, as I said, like already it's so much better now.
You're gonna hear how the lag of the live stream because the game is just pulling fucking crazy.
Patch notes are here. So we will end there and let
no
people
one's interested
go
in listening to
Are you kidding me?
Alright, everybody's gone. No, thank you very much, guys. That was a pleasure to talk to you.
How can I not ask about the Locking Expedition, Lager, the map tablet, the tablet tab, and
thanks for watching.
what the hell, bro? It's been 2 leagues since they said that it needed some finishing, and it's still not here. Sometimes, man, so, like live streams and stuff like that, when they're doing this and they just have like 600,000 people spamming the same exact thing like, over and over and over, it just completely